is ready to go, when Nally is ready to go, and he sends out the bat signal, we follow. And we're going with Nally, our tradition of opening up the Major League Baseball season. You know, I'm so focused on the rest of this week that I'm digging into the closet. I just told Eddie Garrison this. I found an old school Eric Davis T-shirt from 1987, I think, 88 maybe. And I think I'm going to rock that. But I also found, you guys remember those Major League Baseball shirts they put out in the late 80s and early 90s? I think this comes from 1990, and the Reds going wire to wire, where they had the cartoon character as the players. Like, one of the more famous ones is that of Kirk Gibson with the Dodgers. You guys know what I'm talking about? Well, I unearthed just an incredible piece of clothing. It's the Nasty Boys. So I've got Dibble, Charlton, and Myers. Now, there may be like a really kind of brownish stain here. Who knows, right? It's been there since 1990. But I found that in the back of the closet, and that thing is getting rocked later on this week. Again, with Heaven Hill Distillery, that's our good friend Brent Halverson, Romy. And we are going to lock things down with Nally coming up on Thursday. The Major League Baseball openers coming up on Thursday. And our tradition is going to be at Joe's Grill in Castleton. I know the girls are going to be there. I've already heard from both Lindsay and Gina. So the Ice Cream Anchor Queen is going to join us. And Lindsay Monroe of Channel 13. It is going to be a packed set for the opener of Major League Baseball, which, again, has become a tradition around here with us doing that show with Nally and the gang at Joe's Grill in Castleton. And then on Friday, Tommy S. Tommy S. is hosting us at Coach's downtown. And remember last week we asked Chris Kramer if he wanted to come by, so we're going to see if Chris Kramer wants to slide by, if Rafael Davis wants to slide by. Listen, I don't want to hear anything about soft first and second round BS from anybody, because 6 of 8 is incredibly difficult to do, Sweet 16 wise, and is impressive, and especially the way that everybody felt Purdue was going to fall off after the exit and the lottery selection of Zach Edey by Memphis. Now, all of a sudden, now Purdue's going to fall off. I don't care if you're an IU. I don't care what you're a fan of. The one thing you have to recognize is that's impressive. And I know all the time I talk because I like Matt Painter a great deal. Why do you like Matt Painter so much? Well, you know what? Because I like guys that are guys. I like guys that would be in my group with you, with us, that could hang out with anybody. I'm sorry. I like dudes like that. Hangable, relatable, cool dudes. Lack of douchebaggery is very high on my list. And he's just a really good dude. So to watch him have that level of success and to watch what they did, I don't care what anybody says. McNeese comes off that win over Clemson, and I know everybody thought Clemson was going to be an easy bounce, but McNeese tried to do a little bully activity like they do. And it's not so much that they're just overpowering, but they're incredibly aggressive. That is just their style of play. That's Will Wade's style of play. That is what has worked for him. And we'll see if that works in the ACC for NC State. But that is the style of play. And they try to do that to you on both ends. But what was interesting, the flipping of the script that we saw on Saturday by Purdue, they had none of it. They were the aggressors. They suffocated on both ends. And I know down the stretch, there was some here and there. It didn't work. And, you know, obviously the game was probably a little bit closer than certainly. I'll say this. The final score was closer than the game, I think, would indicate. You could tell that Purdue was prepared for exactly what McNeese brought. And they got step-ups. They got step-ups from Lawyer. They won a game going away with McNeese. the team that upset Clemson, with 8 turnovers from Braden Smith. Now, granted, if you're Braden Smith, you're trying to make everything in the world happen. And believe me, these are a lot of adjustments to be made because it's going to be different with the 1 seed Houston. But getting here to Indy and then being a part of what is going to be an incredible weekend. So you get Purdue and Houston. That is the second game of 2 at Lucas Oil Stadium on Friday. So I think it says around 10 o'clock is the tip time, so be prepared for about 10:30. And I would suggest this, and I know a lot of you are going to be out with me hanging, for example, at coaches, but be prepared. You're going to have to pace yourself a little bit. Don't take yourself out of the game on this. Don't go all in, and then by the time 7 o'clock rolls around, wonder why you're puking all over the sidewalk, all right? Practice a little moderation, because this is going to take a minute coming up on Friday to get to that game. But you have to give all the credit in the world to the Boilermakers. 6 of 8 years in the Sweet 16, and you can say, well, they had Zach Edey, and they did this, and what about Fairleigh Dickinson, and what about St. Peter's? I look at 6 of 8, and I would ask any team out there if they would like that, their fan base, and every fan base would say absolutely. So even with Boilermaker fans sometimes pissing and moaning about the outcome of their situations, I don't want to hear it. This is good fortune. I'm not going to say, because it's kind of a backhanded compliment, if you will, to Braden Smith or to Trey Kaufman-Moran or to Matt Painter or to that staff. This is not playing with house money. This is putting yourself in position. You get the Big Ten Player of the Year. You got what could have been also the Big Ten Player of the Year. Now, people would argue, all right, after those two, what do you have? Whatever. But you have those two. So they're not playing with house money. That is just now the upward mobility of a class. It is like the BMOC graduated, and he's gone. And now it's everybody else that you've learned. God, that's how it used to be. And I know it's not like that anymore because everybody in the world's moving all over the map in college athletics. I know it's not that way anymore. That's how it used to be. You learn from those in the classes above you, and then you try to either emulate that or within your own game or your own context. You try to come up with what works for you. And it all falls in line of the success. That's about having a program. That's a program. That's what you want. That's what IU's going to want with Darren DeVries, a program. Now, obviously, it's a lot different. Man, as a lover of basketball, there is a lot of BS, for one, I have to put up with. But I'm willing to put up with it because I love basketball. And a lot of other people would agree with me. And the Boilermakers are also on this ride where they have success. So you couple the Boilermakers and the Cougars of Houston. Like, I look back on it with Kelvin Sampson, and I saw that moment. You know, Khalif Battle's a former Butler Bulldog. I saw that moment with Kelvin Sampson with Khalif Battle of Gonzaga after they lost. And people said, well, you know what? He still did this. Listen, time does have a way to heal a lot of wounds. And he was not a big fan of mine, nor was I a big fan of him. But the one thing that I always feel secure about recognizing is somebody that is at a high level of something. He is a high level of a coach. He is. And maybe he didn't like some things he did in the past. Maybe he's adjusted those things. But he is a high level of coach. There's one thing that you can say about Kelvin Sampson. And if you guys remember back at the other station once upon a time, and I probably deserved it because he would probably think, you know, I'm talking to this jackass in the afternoon, and I don't really want to, and he wanted somebody else at the time. Hell, I think I was propping up Dan Dockage at the time. He wanted somebody else as the next head coach, and it's not me. You guys remember that moment? And I'm sure the tapes were burned the moment I left that place over there. But if you remember that, he said, hey, the one thing, JMV, we have to understand is we have to have thick skin. And then hung up on me. I don't blame him. I don't blame any of these people for not liking him. I got to sit here the afternoon for 3 hours and break down so many of their shortcomings. There's a reason why Chris Ballard probably hates my guts. I will say this. I mean, he's got a pretty humorous way of going about it. I do dig that. The whole midlife crisis stuff was fantastic a couple of weeks ago at the Combine. But I get it. You think I'd want to be rolling around and, let's turn it on the sports talk show. And here's some clown from southern Indiana yapping about what I'm not doing right in football decision-making? Sure, I wouldn't. But Kelvin Sampson, getting back to him for a moment, he is, and I'm talking about all levels of basketball, he is just a incredible coach. It may not have always worked out personality-wise, and certainly it was a hindrance to the IU program way back when, but I'm just talking about coaching ability. There are very few that have that level, and the one thing that he has always done, no matter the circumstances, man, he has adapted. You know how many of these dudes have to adapt? When they say you have to adapt or you have to die. Now more than ever, you have to adapt. Everybody's going to have to adapt. I have to adapt. I have to adapt. Last night, everybody was talking about how, Derek Queen, well, it was a gatherer and it wasn't a travel. There was absolutely a stinking travel. 100% a travel. But I get it because I've adapted. All these Euro travels that are disguised as Euro steps, they were all travels, but we adapt. I adapt because I love basketball. Here's what I thought about with Derek Queen last night. I thought about this. I thought about, all right, this official, and I do like making fun of him, especially in the NBA, but this official had a choice to make. He could have probably called a body-up foul on Ethan Morton, or he could have said, you know what, that's too many steps. He let the play evolve, and you got to give credit where credit is. That Queen kid hit an incredibly difficult shot. Now, I would argue that if you have that level of incredible athleticism, that maybe you don't need 3 steps to get there. But I sure as hell don't want to hear all the dorks out there tell me about gather and do this. No, it's a travel. But we all adapt. We all adapt because we love what we're watching. We may complain about it. We may be critical of it. We may not like the NIL. It may be taken away from the mid-major. You know me, I love the mid-major, but it's still stinking basketball, and my ass is going to be watching. It's the way that it is. I'm never going away. You got me forever. I'm 55. I go down to Bloomington this morning, and I play at the Hyper. Why? Because I love it. Maybe everybody's not that way, but I think there are a lot of people that are exactly like me. Sure, it was a travel. I know what Gene Steratore said. Yeah, baloney. It was a travel. But I don't care because the official let the play evolve. Like Morton was in the best defensive position you could possibly be in. And Queen hit an incredible shot. That's that. It wasn't made by the official. The official could have made 2 different calls either way. Queen could have gone. They have a foul. I don't know. Maybe Colorado State had a foul to give. But you could have done that 2 different ways. I just didn't mind it. You let it play out. Let me take this back. It's not, I guess, like I don't mind it because I get sick and tired of being told about, well, the gathering and the travel from all the nerds out there. And by the way, don't give me the whole, well, wait a minute. How do you know you're not a nerd? I know. From decades of knowing I'm not. I know. Like I'm stupid. I know that. I'm not very bright. I understand that. I understand my limitations. So I'm not very bright, but I also know I'm not a dork. So I'm watching last night and everybody having this debate, and I think it's a healthy debate to have, but that is not going to go anywhere. Look at how the whole Euro step, did you guys know what the hell the Euro step was 25 years ago? Hell no, you didn't. We were just like trying to understand the drop step. Well, wait a minute, the drop step. Wait, what is this? We're like going back and watching semi-pro. What is this thing here? They call it an alley-oop. That was us. So we all evolve, and we evolve because we love basketball, we love the competition, and at the top of the list, we love sports. Oh, this weekend had it all. I really did. We can discuss that if you like at 239-1070. The Boilermakers, outstanding. The Lady Hoosiers bow out to South Carolina, really good, a halftime, 1-point advantage. And, yeah, South Carolina just kind of turned into South Carolina, I thought, in the second half. A Butler Bulldog fan, so I ran into Eric Fromm on Friday at our Bud Light Mini Hoops Mania competition. And I said, hey, Fromm, why don't you come on? Fromm's going to join me coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. I have not had him on in a number of years, so a little college basketball conversation with E. Fromm, the former Butler Bulldog. I'm telling you, this era is hard. NIL is difficult. The transfer portal opens up today. It is questionable why it opens up as the season now is going into the Sweet 16, but I'm assuming some dork out there knows better than me. Whatever. Seems like it'd be better off if you wait. But I will say this. All these dudes are getting calls anyway. Danny Hurley on 60 Minutes was accurate. They're all getting calls. He mentioned, I think, 50% of his team was out the door already. You got all these rumors about these guys going here or there. That's the one thing you cannot say. Somebody said this to me yesterday. You know, the landscape is going to change. It is always going to change. And I don't think this was the whole NIL thing was supposed to be name, image, likeness. It wasn't supposed to be college free agency, but it has morphed into that. It's like Bill Bixby, like David Banner trying to change a tire in a thunderstorm, and he hurts his hand with a crowbar. And it's evolved into the Incredible Hulk. Because it's the Wild West. It's kind of like this show right here, James. Like I go across the hall, Hammer and Nigel, they're like tied to a clock, right? Well, we got a break right here because Matt Barra has traffic, and we have some BS top of the hour bullcrap news thing we got to do. We're around here, we're the Wild West. I mean, you may be break in my ear and driving me insane, but that's your job. But I'm still the Wild West because I'll break whenever I damn well please.
We do play it a little more fast and loose over here.
Fast and loose. James is accurate. Why no man bun today? You just decided not to?
Yeah, I just decided to let the hair down. I don't wear my hair down a lot.
If Scott Stapp had a beard, you might be him.
That's fair.
Can you take us higher today?
I'll do it with arms wide open.
It's James over there. We do have stuff to give away. We'll do that coming up. We got a busy show for you as well. I mentioned Eric Fromm, the former Butler Bulldog, Bloomington South Panther, going to join us in the 4 o'clock hour. Holder, the Colts update after 5. Andrew Catalan had the games in Providence and up close and personal with the Boilermakers in rounds 1 and 2 over the weekend. And Andrew is going to join us from CBS coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, 5:30, in fact. Now, we got a busy week for you, too. Hopefully, you set aside some time to join the show because I will guarantee you one thing. Actually, two things. You know this already. I'm not very bright. So this is what I have to work with for better or worse. But the one thing I know how to do, I can have a damn straight good time. And we're going to have good times on Thursday, Joe's Grill, Castleton. Listen, Nally's going to make sure we all have a good time. And then Tommy S. on Friday, coaches downtown. So I mentioned this. You got the 2 game. By the way, Kentucky and Tennessee. Can you imagine? I mean, I'm trying to think. Somebody has said, do we have enough toilets for those coming up from Kentucky? And I reminded everybody, we don't necessarily need toilets because I don't think they have them either. Right? I mean, I feel like going. I'm going to go right here.
Just stick a bunch of porta potties outside of Gamebridge. We'll be fine.
Porta potties?
Yeah.
What do you? They just pee by
class.
a tree in Kentucky? Hell. Need bathrooms down there? I mean, they haven't had running water. What do you need bathrooms for? You know, no running water. We'll say this. They got some badass roads. I like their roads. They're smooth. The roads are smooth.
Better than what we got up here?
And believe me, oh, my God. Kentucky roads are 1,000 times better. Somebody should write a song about Kentucky road. Kentucky roads are good. Don't you think?
Yeah, they're fine.
Yeah, compared to ours. I love the people that are working on ours, but theirs are smooth down there. So, yeah, I mean, really, the lack of bathrooms up here for Kentucky fans, or Tennessee fans for that matter, probably won't matter. Because you're just going to, you know what, I'm going to drop trowel right here because you got to go.
It's fair.
Right? So, and by the way, everybody in and around the area, make that money, too. Make that money. We're going to promote you. We're going to have one hell of a weekend, a strong weekend around here. Friday, the Deftones, too. You know my son's going to see the Deftones. You a Deftone fan?
They're all right.
Yeah.
Not really heavy enough for me, but
they are popular.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea their popularity.
Oh, yeah.
Tony Donahue's taking my son.
Really?
Is that a good idea? Is that a good idea by the dad here?
I mean, I've never met Tony. Is he a trustworthy individual?
Oh, yeah, great.
That sounded reassuring right there.
Yeah, so you got the Deftones on Friday. You've got the high school, on Friday. You've got the 2 regional games on Friday. And then you have the high school championships. And by the way, shout out to everybody that's going to Gainbridge Fieldhouse over the weekend. What a great number of games. You know, whether we're talking about Crispus Attucks, shout out. I know you guys beat New Pal. But Jeffersonville, ask about Sharon Wilkerson sometime. We got to get him on. See if he'll come on the show. Down in Jeffersonville. Fishers, we probably should get the Fishers coach on too. I'm telling you, this Fishers team, and I've been around here for a long time, this Fishers team is every bit as talented as anybody that has ever won or won titles in this state. They're just running roughshod over everybody. I mean, really, their toughest competition may have been in the sectional round. Shout out to Orleans. Coach Bradley down in Orange County. Now, Orleans, I think, got Liberty Christian and Clay City 1 and 2, respectively, down in Seymour over the weekend. It is going to be a fantastic weekend. So you got that going on. Then, of course, the closeout. Friday, Sunday at Lucas Oil Stadium. Is everybody else, James, in the regionals playing in normal facilities, normal arenas? Is anybody playing in a stadium like Lucas Oil Stadium? So you got San Francisco's a regional. That's going to be in Golden State's arena, right, in San Fran?
Mm-hmm.
Is Atlanta in that Mercedes-Benz thing, or are they playing in State Farm Arena? Do we know?
I can look it up. I would assume they would play in State Farm.
By the way, anytime, never question when I tell you that Greene County is always good for everybody. Shout out to Dusty May in Michigan. That was a difficult second-round test against Texas A&M. Dusty May, you're number 1 in Ann Arbor going to the Sweet 16. And by the way, that program is an absolute disaster a year ago. James?
It is in State Farm Arena.
Give me the regional sites around the country.
So we got Sweet 16. We got
Let me check. I can look it right here.
Yeah,
okay.
Prudential Center.
They're
in
all
Newark.
arenas except for here. It's a stadium.
Chase Center, State Farm Arena, and we're doing Lucas Oil. Okay.
So 35K here? We're going to have 35K and everybody else going to have like 17, right?
Yeah, I would assume so.
That's why we're Indiana, by God. That's it. All right, quick break. We'll come back. You and me on the other side. We'll get to a lot of thoughts. Boilermaker fans, you can jump on as well. Pacers and Timberwolves, round 2, I guess, of sorts from last week, coming up later on tonight. Listen, the Pacers are winning. Would I like to see them play more consistently and close out games and make it easy on you as a fan? Yes, but they are winning. Shout out to Miles Turner. Today is his birthday. I always will feel good about this. All this Miles Turner grief that I took over the years, it is great that I won that. I've won. I'm a winner. I am a winner. Miles Turner has a birthday today. Peyton Manning celebrating a birthday today. You wish that he was more Indy eccentric than Denver, but that comes with being fired, right? So I'll always kind of be more probably here than I guess I didn't get, I was left NDE, but if you get fired from someplace, you're probably, it may be a little lower tier than, right?
I'd say so, yeah.
The way you finish things off in Denver. Man, I wish it was the other way. It's funny. You look back on that right now, and don't you just wish they would have continued the Manning era, and then who knows where you'd be right now? Because we do know where they are right now. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Your calls about that and more at 239-1070. The email address is jmv1075thefan.com. Inside the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. A busy week for this show. By the way, become a AAA member today and thank me later for it. And then check out AAA Travel. I know a lot of you are on spring break. If all of a sudden you feel motivated to jump on a vacation, ask my friends at AAA about that at AAA Travel. And it makes it easier if you're a AAA member. AAA.com inside the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. I'm still kind of waiting on the whole Darren DeVries thing. One of these days, maybe. I've received crickets from IU. I think I might have to go through Lansing. I think it may be easier for me to go through Lansing.
That might be a little bit more fruitful.
Yeah, IU basketball is kind of like going to the Pacers for Obi. It's like been 3 years now. I'm waiting, and I'm really patient. And I'm waiting. It's a damn good thing. If Chad Buchanan didn't come on this show whenever I asked, we'd have some problems. But we're all good otherwise. All right, quick break. We'll come back. We have stuff to give away. I'll explain to that. Actually, a couple of pair of tickets, some really good stuff we have over the course of the week. So hang tight. 239-1070. Me and you on the other side. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
in high school, he was wearing sweatpants. It was really embarrassing, so this song goes out to him.
93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
Let me tell you this. If you're broadcasting a race, it's always good to have electricity. If you want people to watch your race, it's always good to have electricity. Allegedly. You guys try to watch Thermal yesterday? Hopefully you just listened to Thermal right here, because I think they were live, local, and late breaking, Jake being one all day long. Evidently, Jake and I had a conversation about the Joshua Tree in Southern California, and it wasn't where we thought it was. Hell, I don't know. Let's just face it. The Joshua Tree is just someplace where you go to spark up, all right? No really big thing happening there. Not even spark up, probably even doing something else. Isn't that what Johnny Drama did? Didn't Johnny Drama and the fellas from Entourage go to the Joshua Tree? You could just as easily go to that big maple in your backyard. It doesn't matter. Eric Fromm, the former Butler Bulldog, top of the hour. I bumped into him with a Bud Light at our Mini Hoops Mania event at Brothers downtown on Friday. And I said, hey, Fromm, why don't you come on the show? And Fromm said, you know what? I don't like you because I think you're a jackstick, but I think I'll come on anyway. He actually didn't say that, but he could have. Joins us 4 o'clock. Stephen Holder, a little Colts conversation will work in, and then Andrew Catalan was right in front of everybody in Providence this past weekend and saw firsthand the impact of the Boilermakers through round 1 with High Point, through round 2 with McNeese, and I would agree with Rafael Davis when he said, you know, everybody picked Purdue to be upset, and he's right. Everybody picked Purdue to be upset. And then they weren't. And then the same jackasses came out and said, well, you know, it was a soft 2 games. Now, let me remind you of this. First of all, you don't dictate the terms on who you're going to play. Well, I guess you kind of do by your seed, but that's the way that it went. Now, there's no Clemson because you had McNeese. I wouldn't be apologizing, and you know what? Neither would you. Don't give me that crap. Well, I feel bad because we didn't play a team that was better. What? There's no jackasses out there feel that way. You're just glad you move on. You win 2 games. You come back, what, an hour away from your campus? I'm sure you're going to end up getting swallowed up, too, by Kentucky fans. But, I mean, hell, everybody's going to get swallowed up by Kentucky fans. What do we need to replenish for Kentucky fans? Really, Kentucky and Tennessee fans. Got to replenish some things up here. We got enough of moon pies?
Bourbon?
I don't know if we have enough moon pies.
Do we got enough bourbon?
Oh, yeah. Havendale Distillery's got plenty of bourbon.
There we go.
I will say this. If you're a store and you carry moon pies, you damn straight better grab some more right now, because you're going to run out this weekend. Jim McCann in Southern California says, X decisions, either listening to you, 107.5 The Fan, The Ride with JMV, or Blue Chew, she definitely has our attention. It's a very young lady with extensive cleavage. So, listen, Jim, I don't know. I know we're tight and all, but you may have to go with this whole episode of Blue Chew here. Maybe. From Jeff, JMV, I live in Evansville, but I deliver packages for FedEx in Kentucky. I can confirm they don't have toilets. They just drop trowel wherever you are. That's what I do in southern Indiana. True story. I've always said this in the summertime. I save water by I just go outside. That's what they do. Hallett, I wish NIL had been around when I played. My market value is probably a frozen Totino's pizza. I would have taken it gladly. It's funny how we've had to adapt. And I'll say this as the most rabid basketball fan that you know. And I can honestly say that. I can proclaim that. And I know that it is real. The most rabid basketball fan that you know. I've had to adapt. I know sometimes it's weird watching these dudes take 3 steps and then justify it. Oh, it's a gather. Yeah, it's a Euro step. No, it's a travel. It's a travel. But that's okay. We adapt. We're adapting to everything. And believe me, if we can adapt to this ridiculousness of NIL and transfer portal, think about that thing firing up today. Who in their right mind thought this is a hell of a plan to fire this up today? And the only reason I think that you let that go is because so many have already been contacted and the wheels have been in motion for months now. It's never ending. So just think about college athletics like you've seen in Tombstone. Kurt Russell, Sam Elliott, the late, great Bill Paxton. Just think about it because that's exactly how it is. But you know what? Because I'm a lover of basketball, I adapt. It used to be kind of like a difference. Remember when it was a difference? Hey, that's NBA. They got that extra step and the continuation and the Jordan rules and the fouls and Just Kersey and all that. And now it's completely blurred. But I'll adapt. I don't know. Maybe some of you have been run off, but it's not been me. See, Fitz says, hey, JMV, what's the water softener company you're advertised for? Hey, the best bass fisherman in the state of Indiana needs incredible water. So you call LD Smith Plumbing, my friend Lance. They have a series of water softeners. My brother, and you will thank me later. So clean, so clear, so crisp that every bass you catch, you could just flop into an aquarium in your living room, and they will live vicariously right there. LD Smith Plumbing, ldsmithplumbing.com, see Fitch. I'm always here to help. Really am. Yeah, high school basketball this weekend was fun. Listen, I don't know. This is probably more of a question for Greg Rakestraw, who joins us tomorrow. But this Fishers team seems to be every bit as good and as dominant as anybody else. Can you imagine this Harrelson kid played on it? Would that take away from everybody else, or would that just add to the dominance? They seem, and believe me, I went through the era of Purple Rain. I have more admiration for that than anything. I love those guys. I mention this all the time. Jay Edwards, Lyndon Jones. Like, the first time I ever had a conversation with Lyndon Jones, I thought, this is so cool. Derek Keys. All those Bill Green, Marion teams. I'm talking about my generation here. But back-to-back for Purple Rain. But this Fishers team seems to be as talented and as dominant as that, or as LN. And I know it's different between Conley and Oden. But just watching the way this team plays and what they do, I don't know if we'd be so wrong to compare it to those of the past, those at the highest level of the past, would it not? Top of the hour, Eric Fromm, the former Bloomington South Panther. He played for one of the great coaches in the history of the state of Indiana, J.R. Holmes. When I asked him how often he got yelled at by J.R. Holmes, I'm assuming it was often, because I think everybody did. Stephen Holder and Andrew Catalan of CBS talking some Boilermakers coming up at the 5 o'clock hour. Jeff is at 239-1070 right now. Hello, Jeff. How are you?
John, I'm good. How are you?
Jeff, I could not be better. I'm absolutely ecstatic that you called.
Good. I'm ecstatic to be on your show.
Well done.
You're not adapting. You are conceding that college basketball is not like it was when you and I grew up.
Exactly.
Yes.
Is that how our parents and our grandparents felt? Do they feel the same way as we do?
No, not even close.
Okay.
And here's what I'll tell you is, and I refereed for 15 years Division I basketball, and all they want to do is turn it into a feeder system for the NBA. Did the kid travel? Technically, yeah, he did. Do I know a referee that would call that a travel at that point in the game? No, unless they would have called travels throughout the game, which doesn't get done anymore.
And I thought it was a wise decision last night, Jeff. Did you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No. I mean, I've been in that position where you've had a call at the end of the game, and you don't want to screw it up, so you're probably going to err on the side of not calling something and calling something. So
I thought he was going to call the body up on Morton. I couldn't remember if Colorado State had a foul to give, but I just thought, all right, you get to this point now, you let the play evolve, and then Queen made an incredible bank shot. So that's what happened.
And bank shot. A friend of mine said, well, if he had to stop on the second foot, it would have been a lot harder. I said, no, he to bank that shot in, I'm not even sure if he did it on purpose. Almost the angle that it was so impossible. The fact that he banked that thing in was incredible.
Yeah, there's zero way he called bank on that too. None.
Yeah. Here's the thing I'll concede. The basketball's still great. It is. It's fun to watch. I wish it was officiated more like a basketball game, but that's where we are in today's basketball. Other than that, the games were great. I thought the matchups were phenomenal. I think the Sweet 16 matchups are going to be good. The days of, because of the NIL, the days of having those 13, 14, 15 seeds probably winning a couple rounds, those are over with because all those kids from the year before will feed into the bigger schools. But I think you got a number 10 seed in Arkansas, and then everybody else is 6 and lower. So
even think about it too, Jeff. At the highest level, like Dusty took Florida Atlantic to the Final Four 2 years ago, and 3 of his dudes from that team are in the Sweet 16 on other teams.
It's sports. I mean, look at free agency and all the major sports. It's the same thing. It's sad, but again, I'll be like you. It's just the way it is. You embrace it. It's the greatest tournament of any sport still today.
Well, and I just love basketball too. I can't help myself. I cannot.
Can I tell you a story real quick?
Yeah.
I'm 59. I used to referee Division I. I blew my ACL, MCL, and LCL when I was 52. And I've taken a year and a half out, and I'm back playing as of last night.
There you go, buddy. That's what I want to hear right there.
Never stop. Never stop.
Never stop. Never, ever stop. Because when you stop, it's completely over.
That's it. So they'll have to peel me off and put me in a hearse on the basketball court.
That's me. Listen, I'm going to have a heart attack or a stroke out there, and whatever happens. So there's no doubt. Thanks, Jeff.
My girlfriend laughed so hard, all the praises I had to put on last. How are you doing this, and why are you doing this? So,
because we love it, man.
Indiana, right?
You don't have to be great to love it either. Jeff, thank you for the call. You don't have to be great to love it. I just love it. And I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way about other sports. Maybe one of these days you'll be talking about this in pickleball. But for me, it's hoop. We adapt. I would have swallowed the whistle last night in both circumstances as well. Quick break, we'll come back. Top of the hour, Eric Fromm, the former Butler Bulldog and Bloomington South Panther. We've got a busy week for you. I'll go ahead and unload that on you coming up a little bit later on. Don't go anywhere. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
No, not on me, man. It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Oh, we had a great Nothing But the 90s Saturday night, by the way. Well done on everybody there. Our engineer Cam called. I had no idea what it was. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes I can't hear very well, which is often. And I didn't even know that was our engineer Cam that called in. Cam, by the way, if you were listening on Saturday night, and this is probably where some of the higher-ups, and this is what's great about it, because they could piss and moan and complain about what you play and try to dictate the terms, but they know better because they know that stuff works on Saturday night. It's a party. So nobody complains and let me do what I want. You look around in radio and music, and this is something that everybody should try to do because this half-assing stuff isn't working for anybody. This voice track 2 days ago, blah, bland, boring-ass stuff works for nobody. It's just that consultants or higher-ups, those that wear ties, that think they know everything and don't know anything at all, they kind of dictate the tempo on this. With me and you, that's what we do. And we see the benefit of it. So we could have somebody that wouldn't allow us to do it. They go, hey, I don't know about this Nothing But the 90s. Did you just play Domino? Did you play back-to-back Ghetto Jam and Sweet Potato Pie? And I said, you're damn right I did. Good job. That was Cam's request on Saturday. I had no idea it was our engineer Cam. Sometimes I can't, it goes fast-paced, and sometimes I just... And I always say, hey, yeah, I'll play it. Thanks for the call. And then sometimes I have to go back and listen to what you actually asked for because I just can't hear very well. My bad. But nah, man, Domino was a significant portion. What was it, like 94, 95 of the 1990s right there. Ghetto Jam and Sweet Potato Pie. Now, I have to do a little editing, but it's all good. Telling you, we're the only people that do that. I'm the only person that's allowed to do that. Think about number one station in the market says, you know what? Just go ahead and do whatever you want to do. Doesn't happen except right here. That's why you need to listen. Every Saturday night, the JMV Takeover. Just like you do right here every Monday through Friday, 3 until 6. Got you covered. All right, yesterday, Boilermakers, once again, we'll get into that conversation. So impressive. 6 of the last 8 into the Sweet 16, and Kelvin Sampson in Houston coming up on Friday night. It says 10 o'clock. It's probably going to be more about 10:30, but we got a great show lined up on Friday for you. I shall explain. Steve Martin Short tickets to give away. Black Keys tickets to give away. Hang tight. I'll tell you when you can win. On the other side, former Butler Bulldog Eric Fromm. I ran into him on Friday. We'll talk some college basketball with Eric Fromm on the other side. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Sandwich of Dr. Pepper, make it fast. I'm in a damn hurry.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Oh, this sounds like Queen right here. James over there. I'm John. Thank you for joining us. Hour 2. Busy week. Major League Baseball's opening day. Oh, I've got the Redlegs gear. I dug out of the closet a Nasty Boys cartoon T-shirt from 1990. I've got an 89, 88 maybe, Eric Davis that I have found. We'll be rocking that coming up on Thursday. We're going to be at Joe's Grill. We're in Castleton. Nally says this is going to be a party. It's going to be a party. Heaven Hill Distillery, also, that's a tavern tour stop at Joe's Grill coming up in Castleton on Thursday. That's going to be outstanding. So join us there Thursday. Joe's Grill opening day. It's a tradition right here, I believe. Nelly, it will be Romy. It will be Brent Holverson. I think both Lindsay and Gina will be a part. It'll be a blast on Thursday. Joe's Grill, Castleton. Friday with Tommy S. at Coach's Downtown. Before all the stuff is officially underway, before you get Kentucky, Tennessee, Purdue and Houston, the Deftones. Saturday, the basketball state championship games. Before all that takes place, we've got a show. Coaches downtown coming up on Friday. Cannot wait to see you there. By the way, Thursday's games, Sweet 16, BYU, Alabama from New Jersey, Maryland, Florida out in San Fran at 7:09, 7:39 coming up on Thursday. CBS and then the combination of TBS and True TV for BYU, Alabama, Maryland, Florida. And then 9:39, Arizona. If you watched Arizona and Oregon, that was a hell of a finish. I think Caleb Love's played more in college than Hunter Dickinson. I had a nice game last night in round number 2. Arizona and the 1 seed Duke at 9:39, CBS from New Jersey. Arkansas, John Calipari's team, and one of the 3 former Florida Atlantic players of Dusty May that's involved in the Sweet 16 this year. John L. Davis. The 10-seed Arkansas, the 3-seed Texas Tech at 10:09 on Thursday. TBS and True TV. By the way, Vlad Golden plays for Dusty at Michigan as the second. Elijah Martin, that is a standout guard with Todd Golden and Florida. The 1 seed is the 3rd. I believe that Nick Boyd was a part of San Diego State's squad as well. They got ousted last week in a first 4 matchup for San Diego State against North Carolina. So, yeah, that is the ever-evolving NIL and the transfer portal. 2 years ago, you remember all these guys playing for Dusty at Florida Atlantic, and now they and the head coach are in different places. The world of college basketball, college athletics in which we live. Stephen Holder, Andrew Catalon, Scott Boilermaker conversation. The impression that the Boilers left in 2 games that he called. Andrew Catalon of CBS joins us. And Matt Painter, by the way, is going to be on later this week. I talked to Matt yesterday. So good to go with Matt on this show before the Sweet 16 matchup on Friday. A little after 10, maybe 10:30 or so, for the 1 seed Houston and the 4 seed Purdue coming up on Friday night. Matt Painter later on this week. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, he's the former Butler Bulldog. He played for J.R. Holmes at Bloomington South. And I saw him on Friday downtown at Brothers. Good to see him. Eric Fromm joins us now. E. Fromm, how you doing?
I'm doing well, JMV. How are you?
It's been a long damn time until I saw you on Friday. Where you been?
I live in Indy, and before we get started, I got to give a quick shout-out to one of my colleagues, if that's okay.
Sure, do it.
Huge fan of the show. I'm not sure if he's more of a fan of the show or hot yoga, but Big Mike from Certus Medical, one of Speedway's finest. His address is just kidding. I had to give a shout-out to Big Mike.
Yeah, Big Mike. What's Big Mike do?
He's one of the guys that makes everything happen for us in terms of logistics. I'm in medical sales and service orthopedic surgeons in the OR, and couldn't do without Big Mike. So had to give him a shout out real quick. But anyway,
can Big Mike? I hurt my ass at the hyper this morning. Can Big Mike help me with my ass hurt?
I don't know if he's chiropractic trained, but I
don't know if I want any feel. If somebody's going to be doing some feeling around down there, it's probably going to have to be me. But I don't know. Is there anything I can put on it?
Yeah, icy hot, according to Shaq, right, via the commercials. Other than that, I don't know. Well, I can't help you much with the buttocks, but I deal more in hip, knee, and shoulder. So
well, this is like the opposite side of my hip. It's funny. I used to have a lot of padding back there on this ass, but I lost all this ass, and then I fell on it today, and there's nothing there but like bone and hyper hardwood that's been there for about 1,000 years. So yeah.
Sounds like you haven't been at Tiki Bob's getting your dance on enough, so you lost the muscle, huh?
I think I need to. I think I'm gonna have to start working the muscles in my ass. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, man.
Hey, good to see you. I'm kind of curious your thoughts on this tournament so far. Your impressions on Purdue, and then we'll just move on from that point in time. What are you thinking?
Yeah, so the tournament every year, and it's always crazy. As somebody who lived it, let me preface it by saying I did not really get much tick, which means I didn't play much that year. But being a part of it, every possession counts, and it all means something. And what I've told a lot of guys is the two biggest things I think with tournament games, which is why brackets get busted, is it's who comes out and punches who in the mouth first and how the refs are going to call it. And, a lot of times really aggressive teams, they get a group of refs that kind of have them, get checked early on and not let them play how they play. And there's just so many factors that come in. And in terms of Purdue, I'm actually extremely impressed with Purdue, having gone through Indy for so many years and being a big man focused, style of play, to be in the Sweet 16 again and have not that giant force down low. That's a whole play style change. It's not just losing one guy. It's kind of switching how you've viewed to attack and win games. So with that, I'm super impressed. And I know you said Painter's on the show later this week. You should tell him Eric Fromm says he still owes him Cheesecake Factory.
I actually texted him yesterday. I said, hey, man, I played you Eric B. and Rakim Follow the Leader on Saturday night in honor of doing it again. And he is – I mention this all the time. Listen, I like to follow good dudes, right? And you cheer and you root for good dudes. And regardless of who you like, where you went to school, and where your allegiance might be, Matt Painter has simply put a good dude.
Yeah, so, to that point, I mean, I would classify him as a dynamite human. He's a dynamite coach, but in terms of who he is, you're exactly right. And that whole inside joke of Cheesecake Factory, he'll know what I'm talking about. He's just a good guy. And you're right. I couldn't agree more with what you just said.
Yeah, you mentioned this too about. I guess you were kind of suggesting dictating tempo, and I say this all the time because that's what McNeese did that to Clemson, and Clemson got back in it, but ultimately lost. And you could tell McNeese wanted to force that will that you're talking about on Purdue in round number 2, but Purdue wouldn't have anything of it. And really on both ends, I thought Purdue responded because McNeese wants to press the issue and see if the officials and how they're going to call it. And again, dictate the terms on that, and Purdue wouldn't allow him to do it.
Correct. So that first game against Clemson, they were insanely tough. And, they were McNeese that game, and I guess you could say they were McFleece against Purdue the next because they were soft. Purdue came out, did exactly what you just said. And that's why the tournament's so nuts, man. Every game, and I used to do a little bit of online or the sports, the apps, the gambling stuff, and I would never do it before the game started, and I don't anymore, but it's just because of that point. There's too many factors, and it's like who has the energy, who has the gusto. I was watching some games last night, and just even Illinois, Illinois, you could just feel it from them that they were on their heels the whole game. And, Kentucky wasn't, and it really comes down to that mentality. And you only have 40 minutes. And if you're not – and the other thing, too, is each game is divided in half, really. It's half-based, honestly. Who's going to win each half? And it's one possession at a time, which is what some Coach Stevens used to always tell us is win the next possession. And, there's a lot to it, but the mentality piece to the tournament is just so huge.
So Eric Fromm, he's the former Butler Bulldog, former Bloomington South Panther, kind enough to join us, and to shout out to Big Mike, And Eric's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Man, basketball is always going to have me. I love it, and I'm going to adapt, and I've adapted to NIL and the transfer portal. This NIL thing, it wasn't supposed to be college free agency, but that's exactly what it is right now. It's not name, image, likeness. It's college free agency. And, the transfer portal opens today, which I question. The tournament's going into the Sweet 16 and the portal opens. Are there better ways? Like, have you ever thought about some better ways that they can handle things? It seems like that they should have some other options out there as opposed to the ones that they presently ride herd with to this point, collegiately speaking. Would you agree?
I have pretty strong opinions on it, actually. And, to be clear to anyone who's listening, I would have made no money with NIL. So this is not a guy who's bitter that he didn't make money. I think there's a lot better ways to do it. I think this is the NCAA not able to take ownership or accountability for the fact that they should have paid some guys. I mean, before all this, you had Ohio State football players selling their rings to get tattoos. And I understand, school is free, but, if you want to eat off campus or pay for gas or, take a girl to the movies, or from a women athlete's perspective, a guy to the movies, whatever it is, having a little bit of something. And, I had some relationships where I suggested this, and instead of, them making it standard across the board with a set amount of money for all men and women, all sports, the floodgates were opened. And I think we talked about this at the Pop Shot Finals on Friday, that, it is a recruiting advantage, and whether they say it is or not. And then also, it was hard enough for me as a guy who didn't really, contribute much point-wise or whatever to a successful program, that when you're done playing, you have an identity shift, and that's hard enough. And now you're paying a lot of guys who never see the court a lot of money. And then they're going to, it'll be fine for the people that move on and make money professionally. But for the people that don't, I think it's doing more harm than good, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, and you wonder how they handle this, right?
Right.
And the now, I mean, is anybody thinking about the longer term future and, putting back, or you just you going for it right now and you got all this? Because listen, I didn't make anything, and nobody wanted my ass around, but I would have spent every dime on being the coolest dude I thought I could be back then. So I'd have been throwing it around like crazy. How often do you think this is actually being taken seriously, not just in the moment, Eric, but for the long-term future of all these athletes with the monetary the NIL monetary gain that you're going through collegiately that you didn't have, for example?
Yeah, and I guess what I would say to that is, I played through 3 conferences, and we went up each time, my senior year being the intro to the Big East. And, I'll never forget someone was saying something in the locker room about, like, man, we only get a couple of these shirts or whatever. And Coach Stevens walked through and said, you got shoes and a basketball. What more do you need? And to that, and seeing how Butler's changed and a lot of these things and moving up has been phenomenal. But, at what level are we, when we used to play, you had a home and an away shoe, and I think there might have been 2 color variations, but they were the same colors. Now you can wear rainbow shoes, or you can do whatever you want. And at some point, and that might be me being too much of a stickler, or seeming like I'm 50 years old. But I think, some of that toughness, and then you take away, there's no repercussion to transfer anymore. There's, who's going to pay the most. And these things, I don't think they're teaching anybody for later in life, like how to fight through anything. And, people might, I don't have social media. So if you tweet at me because you're mad on my opinion, I won't see it. So good luck. But, this is my opinion, and take it for what it's worth. But I just, it's not all of this stuff. I think what they could have done is treated all these athletes like trust fund kids, right? Hey, when you turn 30, you get access to 90% of this. But right now, we're not giving it to you, because I think you're right. There's 18 to 21, 22 years old. How do you, even if you have a financial person in place from your program, how do you even control that? And, I honestly think not 1% of it is for their best interest.
Yeah,
but I said, that's just me.
He's Eric Fromm, the former Butler Bulldog, on the Indy Moore Automotive Group hotline. The effect that you have seen have that on your program at Butler.
To be honest, I can't really speak to that much. One of my old teammates is the AD now, and I have some tickets that my work and I go to some games.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be in the negative. How do they handle it? I guess because you would know better than anybody, given the fact that one of your own teammates is kind of right there. Is it more difficult for them to do it than a lot of others? Because as you mentioned a little bit earlier, there are built-in advantages for some of these power conference schools, and then others maybe not so much.
Yeah, and I would say this. I think Butler has always been a place that, like, the guys who have played there have believed in the school and believed in the system. And I believe that Thad, Coach Mata, has tried to, and he's done a good job at making sure that those kind of guys come. I think a lot of programs don't. It's about who can, this is our budget this year, who can we get? And it doesn't always work out. And I won't name any schools because I don't want to, piss off too many people, but yeah. I think like there's evident examples of programs that have spent big bucks and it doesn't mesh. And I think what Butler did this year, they played tough and played together. And maybe I think it's a different world now. And with that, but to your point, JMV, I don't know what Butler's situation was. I don't know how any of the NIL even worked. All I know is when I showed up and watched some games, it seemed like it was a little more cohesive and, trying to get some wins, and it might not have turned out the way they wanted this year. But, the core of what you're trying to accomplish as a group of guys and representation of a university seems to be there more than a school that might not necessarily care about that. And every single season is back to the drawing board. Who can we bring in? And that's harder than people think.
Yeah.
You think that you get all these top guys. Look at the NBA, right? LeBron's got literally he's got Luka now, and I know they're meshing, but you look at all these super teams that try to make it work, and it doesn't happen like you think it would, just because the dollars align certain guys to certain teams.
It's Eric Fromm is with us. I'll mention it this way, too. Somebody asked me about Darren DeVries, the new head coach down in Bloomington at IU. What's it going to take? And I said, it's going to take somebody. Don Fisher and I had this conversation on Friday. It's going to take somebody to be able to piece this puzzle together, because I think we saw a great example of what happens when it doesn't piece together this past year. You had guys down in Bloomington that were talented. Individually, there was a ton of talent there, but you didn't see them make, Eric, major moves until you had some guys like somebody that went to Bloomington South and Mr. Basketball, when Leal and Galloway and Goody started taking on major roles, those that understood the history, and it was more meaningful than just a paycheck and dropping in for a season there. You have to mesh that together. IU was unable to do that last year. That's what the new head coach is going to have to try to do moving forward.
Absolutely. And I'll be the first to say, if like Duke and North Carolina are playing, but Forrest Gump is on TV, I'm watching Forrest Gump. But with my my knowledge of college basketball, and intimately with both of my program and IU's program, I grew up in Bloomington. As someone who grew up in Bloomington, I honestly, and this, like I said, I'm probably making enemies, but I don't really care. I think the biggest issue, like, one, is coaching, but I think two, it's the culture there within the student body. When we won at Butler, we felt it. When we didn't, we felt it. And I think at IU, a lot of those kids, their egos are so high, and I could be wrong, but like I said, I don't mind saying it. I just think no matter what success or problems that those kids have there, their student experience as an athlete, as a player in the IU basketball program, which has such storied history, does not change one iota. And it's hard at that age too. I'm not putting that on the guys fully. You're trying to learn how to become a man. You're given everything on a platter, and you're 18, right? So, but if nothing changes in terms of how your peers interact with you, I wonder what kind of person it takes to realize, like, especially with this NIL model, I'm bought into this school, I'm bought into the history, I'm bought into winning, versus, we just got blown out, but I'm still, the talk of the town. And I think people can tell me that that's wrong. I won't believe you. I firmly believe that as a guy that's young and impressionable, attention and balancing an ego is something that no one talks about. And I think in that town, that is just more than evident if you've ever been around it. So,
yeah, it is interesting because that is the dynamic that has to be met, because you have to have, especially there, you have to have somebody that understands. You want those that understand the history and, would be in it more. If they weren't getting paid a dime, would still be there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
exactly.
and again, you also have to have guys that are extremely talented. And the NIL is there. The transfer portal is there for you to find those guys. It's just a delicate balance that you have to come up with answer-wise now, because if you don't, then you'll have a head-scratching type of season like they had this past.
Yeah, and one hypothetical I throw out real quickly is if Mark Cuban wanted them to have, I know they have a really high NIL, but if he wanted them, he could come out and say, the top 5 best college basketball players each get $10 million a year. Everyone come. You don't even have to worry about high school because it doesn't necessarily translate, right? It's the guys who win in college. Okay, top 5, $10 million each, come. And I'm still not sure if that would, equate to getting back on a, championship contending program, because of just that. I think it takes more, to your point, like a buying in and a chip on your shoulder and a kind of, gusto to, hey, that I play for IU or, we're talking about IU, right, JMV? But
sure.
it relates to almost any program, right?
Right.
In this model.
Well, it is going to now for sure. There may be some that have not been touched by this, but it's going to get them all when it's said and done here.
Right.
So it just will. Eric Fromm is with us. So what years did you guys, were you on the team with Holes that won the state title?
Yeah, I was. We were undefeated my junior year. Jordy Holes, me, D. Davis, who played at Xavier.
Oh, I forgot about D.
Turner,
yeah,
Spencer at Belmont.
Yep.
And then what a lot of people don't talk about is we had about 7 or 8 guys that were all seniors who played either D1 football or were just athletes in general. And when we had guys come off the bench, they might not have been the D1 basketball guy, but we had tough-nosed guys. And then you throw in the fact that J.R. Holmes, Coach Holmes, is the winningest coach in history. It was a kind of like stars aligning situation where we were just unstoppable that year. And, big testament to Jordy, who led that team. But, I think all of us in my junior and senior year, we all averaged, no one averaged more than 15 points. It was like 10 to 15 cool. for about everybody, because it was one night, who's getting 30? The minute we knew it, it kind of gravitated that way. And we all were okay with that. None of us had to get ours. We actually cheered. We're like, hey, get him the ball. The next year we had Matt Carlino, who, ended up playing big-time basketball in college as well. He was one of my best friends. Yep. It was like, D, Matt, Spencer and I would walk out, and within the first quarter, we're like, oh, it's D's night. It's Fromm's night. It's Matt's night. It's Spencer's night. And that evens you all out, right? If you're averaging that window of points, there's not a guy. There's guys. And that's what wins, when you don't care and egos are aside.
So how many of you dudes were supposed to go to Bloomington North or Edgewood and went to South instead?
The only one was D. D was at North, and then his family moved across town. But we were a public school, so if you looked at the national high school rankings, we were number 3 behind Finley Prep and Oak Hill.
Man, I love JR. I've got such an amount of unconditional respect for him, because he's just one of the greatest to ever do it, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, there's no better way to put it. I don't think, he not only was he at basically a single program, he started at Mitchell for either a season or 2, but he stayed with
he played smaller schools too. I always liked it because he didn't mind. I mean, I went to Eastern Green. He'd play Eastern Green. They played Bloomfield. Exactly. He played smaller schools. I always thought that was pretty cool. So kudos to the smaller school. We went in my sophomore year. Garrett Butcher, who ended up being a teammate of mine, who, by the way, is the scoring leader in Monroe County, which included Sean May, Jared Jeffries, John Holmes. Garrett Butcher is Monroe County's scoring leader of all time.
He was a few years ago, but like I said, if Forrest Gump's on, I'm watching Forrest Gump, so I haven't checked. But for what I know, No one's passed it, and he had that record. And we went into Edgewood, and they smoked us. And Garrett had about 40-some. And unfortunately, Garrett's knees gave out, but I used to watch film on him. So, like, that whole area, to your point, Eastern Green, Martin, all these schools down in that southern part around IU, they have some really, really solid players, and we weren't afraid to go play them. And even if, they had a guy like Garrett Butcher who was going to smoke us, I mean, he was the Adam Morrison of high school basketball. He could score from anywhere on the court. Gonzaga Adam Morrison, not Bobcats Adam Morrison. So let's be clear on that. But, that's who he was. And so there's been a lot of talent to come out of that town in public schools. And, when we come up and play the Carmels and the Pikes, we'd smoke them.
Man, everybody's going to love that. Big Mike's going to say, "Why don't you take it easy on Carmel and Pike around here, would you?" Come on, man.
I'm making enemies today.
Come on, buddy.
I do not care.
Hey, don't be pissing off Big Mike. All right, don't do that.
Yeah, I'm a competitor. Let's go.
Hey, I enjoyed it. Great to see you on Friday. We'll do it again soon. Come back out and hang out with me sometime.
Yeah, you let me know, man. You got my number.
You got it. Good to talk with you.
You too.
It's Eric Fromm, the former Butler Bulldog, Bloomington South Panther. I love that. A good conversation right there. It's good to see him, too. It's been a while. Eric Fromm on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Stephen Holder and Andrew Catalan of CBS. We talk Boilermakers with Andrew, bottom of the 5 o'clock hour. Sit tight. Tickets to give away. I shall explain next. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
James over there. I'm John. Thank you for joining us. Eric Fromm, the former Butler Bulldog, Bloomington South Panther. Good conversation we had regarding college basketball, Boilermakers, and more. Podcast 1075thefan.com. Andrew Catalan had both round 1 and round 2 for the Boilers in Providence this past week. He joins us coming up at 5:30. We shall get a breakdown of the Boilers, their matchup with Houston, coming up after 10 o'clock on Friday night. Coach's Tavern, Friday downtown. Before that, opening day of Major League Baseball Thursday in our tradition, Heaven Hill Distillery, Bryn Halverson, Romy, Nally. The girls will be there. That, of course, Joe's Grill in Castleton. You know, I mentioned this. I'm lurking. All right, Moyer Diamond Madness. You guys got all involved in that. A $5,000 diamond is what we made our brackets for. I am lurking in 22nd position right now. I have 14 of these 16 in the Sweet 16. For some reason, I did not have Ole Miss and I didn't have Arkansas. So 14 of these 16 I have in. So in the Moyer Diamond Madness group, I'm number 22. In the ride with JMV for a bar restock, I am number 11 right now. So I would like to describe that as lurking. I am lurking. So hopefully some things fall my direction. Yeah, all but 2. I didn't have Ole Miss nor Arkansas in the Sweet 16. Everybody else I did. 14 of the 16. So feeling pretty good right now. I'm going to flex on everybody if you're not careful. 7 o'clock tonight, Timberwolves Pacers. I know that Anthony Edwards, his 27.5 per, was questionable going in. I guess we'll find out a final answer coming up here in just a bit. Timberwolves and Pacers. Remember last Monday night what took place in Minneapolis, round 2. And again, the Pacers are winning, and that is good. Do you want to see the Pacers play more consistently and do to teams you should do that to? Yeah, probably so. Getting a win on Saturday over Brooklyn. Man, what's Watford's problem, by the way? Do we know? Watford have an issue? He's just all complaining and whining. And you're a double team. You're a playoff team, and you got to double team me. Well, I mean, maybe you're the only person that's any good at scoring outside of Cam Johnson, who just returned last time. Maybe that's it. You're a superstar. They got to double team you. Whatever. 7 o'clock tonight, Timberwolves and Pacers, which I do believe means that we'll have to shake loose a little bit. Anything goes coming up in the 6 o'clock hour. Wonderful. And Thursday, Friday on the road. Black Keys tickets. We've got Martin and Short. I've seen that before, too. That's absolutely outstanding. For the end of the show. Sit tight. 239-1070 is the number. Mark is up next. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hey, JMV, what's up?
Mark, good to hear from you. Go ahead.
Hey, it's been a while, but, since we've talked, while I was thinking, it dawned on me that I spent time at Shakamak. As a kid. You might recall my dad was a coach there in the 70s. He moved us to North Manchester, where he coached. The Squires are in the state finals for the first time. And then ultimately ended up at Marion. So that's a pretty good trifecta. I don't say so myself.
Wow, that's awesome right there. What year? What year at Shakamak in? Refresh my memory.
Oh, I was a kid, 3rd, 4th grade, like 73, 74.
I gotcha.
Had the best Little League program in the state.
Well, there's no doubt. The baseball program was so superior to most. It is incredible to think about. And during my era, it was Chip Sweet that was the coach down there, and he was the one that was kind of molding everybody baseball-wise. But it was an institution that's lasted so many years, and it was really before like you get the Indiana Bulls and all these different teams, the Astros and all these teams now. It was before all of that where you just had to, you played Greene County All-Stars, or you maybe had played, Babe Ruth-wise in Terre Haute, which some of those guys probably did in the summertime, but that was about it. You had to basically do it on your own, and they were always at the front of the class in terms of baseball down there.
Dude, you're absolutely right. They had a little scoreboard in center field. It was close enough to my house so we could actually ride bikes to the diamond. And I remember we had pinstripe unis with red stars on the cap. So even though hoops was my favorite, those were some great baseball memories. And my dad had Shakamak, his back stenciled on the side of a truck we owned, the Lakers, of course. So in any event, but to end up in Marion was pretty awesome as well. And,
I believe it's funny you mentioned that too, because I believe we talk about Dusty May, who graduated from my high school, Eastern. I think he lived in Jasonville for a number of years, and then Linton, and then ended up at Eastern Green, I believe is how that goes. So I think a lot of Greene County gets to celebrate Dusty May and his success.
Absolutely. I think his brother, he posted something last year. I think his brother maybe works or coaches or teaches for Shakamak schools. I could be mistaken, but no, great memories dribbling my basketball to school. Back in those days, you didn't have to get on the bus. You just went out the door and
Well, listen, I feel good in talking to you because I've actually played meaningful games before at Colmont in that gym, so I feel good about it.
Yeah. Our sectional was Clay City, and the Graves. There was a kid named Rusty Miller at Switch City.
He scored about a zillion points at Switch City. Yeah, Rusty Miller, like 70 or 71, I think it was. Yeah,
he could fill it up. He was the Graves. The kids that played at Butler, he was their uncle. I later learned.
Right.
Yeah.
So good stories.
Well, hey, I originally called to say my only issue with that play by Queen, and I could care less who won that game. I just felt like he gained an advantage. So, when I look at that, you're a baller. When he got to his right foot, it allowed him to square up. I don't think he makes that shot off his left foot. I could be mistaken, but in any event.
Well, and here's how I try to justify the no call there is because I think you could also have easily whistled Morton for the body too, in that situation. And I just kind of thought that the travel certainly by today's standards wasn't egregious. I just get sick and tired of everybody telling me about the gather and all this nerdery.
Right.
I thought it was the official letting these guys. Really, Morton played as good a defense in that moment as you could ask for. It was just a made shot by a guy. And I thought really, given the circumstances, everything was about as even as you could get.
Well, it had a Euro flavor to it. And by the way, Halliburton, if you break that down against the Bucks, and I love the Pacers, but I'm pretty sure Halliburton got an extra step in there to get squared up on that shot.
Well, there used to be a difference between the extra step in college and the extra step or lack of that in college and what is. But now the lines are really blurred, and I think you either adapt and still enjoy basketball or, as Eric Fromm mentioned, you watch Forrest Gump instead or something. I don't know what to tell you, but I'm still watching basketball, so.
Well, and they make it look natural. That's the tough part because live action, I didn't see it. Then you watch the replay, and you're like, I'm pretty sure he got 3.
Yeah, you did.
But in any event, great show.
Thank you, Mark.
Love listening and enjoy the tournament.
You got it, Mark. Thank you for the call. Do I need to break here or can I get to Jim here?
Let's go ahead and break.
All right, let's break. Jim on the other side. We'll do that. Stephen, hold the top of the hour. We'll get you some Colts info, some NFL stuff really quick. Andrew Catalan regarding the Boilermakers. Hey, Boilermaker fans, Joe's Grill for me on Friday. Check that. I'm sorry. That's Thursday. Coach's Tavern on Friday. You guys want to join? Is Kramer coming?
Potentially.
Yeah, we're trying to get Chris Kramer down there. I'm ready. I don't know about you guys. Yeah, I'm going to throw it out. So, Boilermaker fans, and I know there's a little bit of pressure applied to you Boilermaker fans to show out on this. Is there not? Do you guys feel a little bit of pressure? Any Boilermaker fans out there feel just a little bit of pressure? Because you've got Kentucky and Tennessee coming in. And as much as you don't want to see your team's ass whipped by Houston, I would have to think you don't want to get your ass whipped by opposing fans. I don't mean literally, but just in numbers, in terms of volume, which, believe me, especially with Kentucky, good luck with trying to fight that. But you don't want to be swamped or overwhelmed, do you? So let me tell you this, a little bit of pressure on you. Show up, show out, right? And we'll get you started at Coach's Tavern coming up on Friday beginning at 3 o'clock. Quick break, we'll come back. Your call, Stephen Holder, Andrew Catalan. Big week, including Matt Painter later on this week. Sit tight. Tickets to give away, too. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Fan.
I saw this online. So 600 players have now entered the transfer portal as of today, as it's open. 600. Black Keys, number 9 at 239-1070. Who wants to go? August 24th, Everwise Amphitheater, White River State Park, downtown. You guys will love it. What a great venue. Gold on the ceiling. Akron, Ohio's The Black Keys, August 24th. That's a Sunday, by the way. At Everwise Amphitheater, downtown. Enjoy that. Hey, one of the 600 would be IU forward Mackenzie Mbako. Entered the transfer portal, and according to Jeff Rabjohns, is going to enter his name into the 2025 NBA draft. 64 of 65 appearances started for Mbako. Tom Owen writes this, JMV, I saw Gina on Wish TV this morning. Well, that's better than I don't even know how to get it. I have to go out with tinfoil off a ding-dong wrapper from 1985 and put it on the end of a coat hanger and stand up on my roof to get it. I like Gina a lot, but damn, that's a lot of work to watch it. So I saw Gina on Wish TV this AM. When did this happen? I've been in Australia for 2 weeks. I believe in the past 2 weeks, the Princess of Ice Cream has become a morning. And by the way, at least somebody was savvy and smart bringing her back and putting her on. And that would be Wish TV. It would just be nice if Wish TV, if you didn't have to go to the extreme, up on my roof with the clothes hanger and the tinfoil on one foot to get it. But they were smart enough to get her back on. She'll join us. Lindsay joins us coming up on Thursday. Joe's Grill, Castleton. It's the opener of Major League Baseball season and a tradition with Heaven Hill Distillery, Nally, Romy, Bryn Halverson, Tavern Tour Stop, Joe's Grill. That's in Castleton coming up on Thursday. But yeah, Gina's back on Wish. I shouldn't say back on Wish the first time on Wish. Are they ever going to make it easier for me to watch, or is it difficult for me to watch because I'm just not like cord cutting? I don't know.
Tech savvy?
Tech savvy? Is that it?
I mean, maybe.
Hey, by the way, I don't know if this is a big deal or not. Somebody can tell me. They are right now cutting a path in my yard to drop in, is it Xfinity? Comcast. Are they different or are they the same? What the hell's, hell, I don't know.
I don't know either.
One of the two, are they the same or are they different? One of the two are coming down my road. Do you have Comcast? And I think, is it?
So I guess Comcast is Xfinity.
Okay.
According to
So that's
this.
coming down my road right now. So, if you were me, because I know all you cord cutters out there are having second thoughts now. If you were me, after 25 years of loyalty to DirecTV, would you drop it like it's hot and go with whatever the hell this Xfinity Comcast stuff is? Or would you maintain? Because, listen, I'm not going to get with you in cutting the cord. I got too many horror stories about it. You got to do too much. Like, look what I have to do to watch Gina. I can't even watch the Princess of Ice Cream in the morning on Wish TV Channel 8. I don't even know where the hell to find them. Like, where's Waldo of TV around here? JMV, was there a Greene County transfer portal from Newberry to Hobbyville? Yeah. Yeah, I transferred to Salisbury and then to Hendricksville. 3-time transfer for me. Yep, I could not pass up the Yoho's General Store money, so I had to go. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Stephen Holder, Andrew Catalan, Boilermaker conversation forthcoming. Don't go anywhere. Steve Martin. Short tickets also in the final hour of play on this Monday. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Stare all day, or you gonna buy something?
I'm gonna stare all day.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Andrew Catalan, bottom of the hour from CBS. Had the Boilers round 1 and round 2. Providence got the Boilers coming up again on Friday. Sweet 16, Lucas Oil Stadium, the only stadium being utilized. The others are all arenas. And it's probably a good thing, too, because every hillbilly known to man is going to be in town here this weekend, including me. All the hillbillies are coming. You guys ready? Can you imagine? It's going to look like the stinking Beverly Hillbillies rolling in here from the South. And have Granny in the rocking chair at the top.
What's the over-under on the amount of overalls you see?
Oh, man. No, I'm all for it, though. It's going to be a fantastic Friday. We all the hillbillies together. Fantastic. Yeah, Kentucky, Tennessee. I mentioned this regarding the Boilermakers, too. This one's going to be on you, Boilermaker fans. You're going to show a little bit because there are going to be a lot of Kentucky fans, a lot of Tennessee fans, and about a handful of Houston fans. So a little bit of pressure on you, Boilermaker fans. That makes sense to you? Oh, yeah. Diggler, I got you on this. Where is this? What is this Hard Rock Live thing? Is this, Hollywood, Florida. Yeah. Keith Sweat's birthday bash. How did I get invited to this? Keith Sweat. Oh, SWV, Sisters with Voices. Drew Hill. Genuine. You know, I forgot to play that on Saturday night. That's nothing but the 90s. Genuine Pony. That's not really about a pony. Were you aware of this?
I figured.
Jump on it. Let's do it. Come ride my pony. It's not about an actual pony.
Little innuendo there?
That's not, yeah. Not about riding a pony. And then there's some dude, I've seen this Tank guy before. He comes out there, he never wears a shirt. 40th anniversary. It's the he's more than 40 though. Keith Sweat's birthday bash. That's good right there. Let me tell you this. One of the greatest, and I played a couple of slow jams in honor of Wells. On Saturday night, I did Freak Me by Silk. And Low Key's I Got a Thing for You, Baby. But one of the greatest slow jams of all time is Make It Last Forever by Keith Sweat. I'm telling you, if you can't close the deal after playing that, then simply put, you, James, are not a deal closer. You're not.
It's good to know.
Coffee's for closers. All right, Andrew Catalan, bottom of the hour, Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I know he spent a lot of time in South Florida as well. You're going to be going to the Keith Sweat birthday bash in Hollywood, Florida, coming up? Stephen Holder?
No, but I think I need to look at my plans and maybe make some corrections.
You better.
So I went to a tour here recently in Indy. That was a similar lineup to what you just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was something like the R&B vibe tour, I think.
Yes.
So you had, I think if I recall, it was Drew Hill, Silk.
Yes.
112.
Yes.
Monica was there. I forget who else. But it was a lot along the lines of what you were just talking about. I told Wells about it. I don't think he made it, but I definitely got his attention.
He always talks big and never shows up. You ever notice that? That's kind of his MO.
That sounds fair. That sounds about right.
We did go together. We saw Keith Sweat, Guy, and New Edition, which had everybody. Ralph Tresvant, Bobby Brown, Johnny Gill,
that's the New Jack
all of
Swing
them.
era right there.
Yeah, so, and Guy.
That was the vibe.
Aaron Hall was, I hate to say they were a little bit off key right there, but it was all right. It was all good. But I'd never seen Guy before.
Curve.
Yeah.
You're great on a curve when you're,
55.
Oh, there's no question about that, too. I mean, it is still the same lyrical wizardry right there that we knew Guy. So, and one of my favorite albums of all time is The Future. So it was a hell of a time right there. But no, that sounds like a great show. I don't know what birthday it is for Keith Sweat, but that sounds like an absolute can't miss. Yeah.
Yeah, but look, you had to be there in the 90s, though, man. You just had to be there.
Am I right, though, about Make It Last Forever? That's one of the greatest slow jams of all time.
Listen, man, all you got to do is let the song do the work on that one.
Oh, I know. I
mean, if you got any kind of skill whatsoever.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I'll just leave it at that.
No question about that. Hey,
I'm not speaking from experience. I'm just speaking generally.
Speaking of skill, so we're kind of winding down. It's weird how this whole free agent thing, it just, especially with the Colts this year, because they handled it differently than we have seen in the past. Man, it popped early, and it's a slow roll right now. It's a good thing we have Hoop because there's not a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it is interesting. I kind of wondered if they would still take a second look at some guys in this sort of second phase. But frankly, league-wide, I don't see a lot happening anywhere. And I think there is a little bit of this, and maybe that's not that unusual, but it's my observation. I think there is a little bit of older veterans holding out right now because – I don't think there really was a second wave. It doesn't feel like there was that traditional quote-unquote second wave of free agency. I feel like I'm still waiting for it. And maybe this is just perception, but, you had the onslaught that first week. I think the second week was relatively quiet, particularly when we're still waiting for guys like Aaron Rodgers to make up his mind. I mean, that seems somewhat unusual. And then because of him, there are some other guys that are still – sort of in limbo. So, like Russell Wilson. So, it feels. This is not a scientific observation, but it feels at least like there wasn't a lot of a second wave this year, and I don't know what to attribute that to, but it does feel that way. And I say all that to say, the second wave, quote unquote, is where Chris Ballard usually does his work. So maybe it comes later. We still got a month to go before the draft. The owners' meetings are coming up, actually starting this coming Sunday. I'll be in Florida for that. So that maybe once we get past that, maybe we have some movement. I don't know, but it is interesting.
He's Stephen Holder of ESPN, ESPN.com's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Is the expectation that we're going to hear from Jim Irsay at the owners' meetings?
I don't know yet. Still TBD. The door had not been closed on that last I heard, but I don't know. I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful. With him, really the issue is his mobility. Okay. Getting around has been tough for him, with his health challenges. We know that. So he hasn't been, he just hasn't been as on the go as he used to be. He used to be someone who, would hop on his jet at a moment's notice and be somewhere. And that is just not possible right now for him. It's not as possible. So like anything, it boils down to, can he perform those duties with his limited mobility? And I don't know that answer, but the door had not been closed on that as of last week. So I am hopeful, and we will see.
Stephen Holder's with us. Speaking of door not closed, I saw this, I think it was with McAfee a little bit earlier, where Ian Rappaport mentioned the Colts do have interest in Trey Hendrickson. If indeed that is true, how deeply rooted is this interest?
Well, I think it's real. I do believe it's real. I've been told that by people in the organization. That is very different than saying it's going to happen. But I think if the circumstances changed, excuse me, then it's definitely possible. I think things would have to change pretty dramatically, right? I mean, they're not trading a first-round pick, that's for sure. They can get the contract done because he's going to want a new contract, right? We understand that. It's possible that they can get that done. It would take some. It would take some movement on some other some other contracts, I guess is what I'm saying, to create some space. But the Colts, I will say this, they definitely have shown some willingness to backload contracts. We saw that here with the two big contracts they did here in free agency with the two defensive backs. Those two contracts are, for the Colts, very backloaded, and not very much was invested in the upfront money other than the signing bonus. But from a salary cap perspective, those contracts are heavily backloaded, which, again, something Chris Ballard never, ever, ever did for the most part up until maybe the past year or so. So I think that's notable. And the reason I bring that up is, or one reason I bring it up is because you'd probably have to do something like that to make Trey Hendrickson happen. So there is a willingness to do that because we've seen them do it. Would they do it on that contract? I don't know, but there's precedent is what I'm saying. And that at least makes it possible.
What would they have to forego, meaning personnel-wise? Names, positions that wouldn't be addressed or wouldn't be the level as what you might think, because they would be all in on Hendrickson in this case.
Right. Well, I mean, right now, let's see. I believe they're roughly somewhere around $20 million in cap space right now. It sounds like a lot, but it goes quick, right? I mean, you've got some other things you've got to deal with. You got a draft class you got to deal with. So, you know, that will get eaten up. Now, if you bring in a guy like Trey Hendrickson, I mean, a pass rusher of his caliber, if you just look around the league at what those guys are making now, I mean, it's $30 million plus. I mean, that's kind of where the entry point is, isn't it? You know, I mean, for a guy like that, you're talking about that's probably the lower end, you know? So I don't know how you'd structure it, but you'd have to structure it creatively, probably with a pretty decent signing bonus, and that allows you to bring the cap number down because they would need to get a pretty manageable cap number for Trey Hendrickson. You'd either have to do that, which means heavily backloaded, or you'd have to address some of your contracts that you currently have in-house. You'd have to maybe restructure some of those. It doesn't mean take money away from the player, but it means maybe kick the can down the road and create some cap space by backloading some current players' contracts. That can be done. It's not the hardest thing in the world, but you just have to be aware of the potential future consequences of doing that. And Chris Ballard is very careful about that. So you got to really want Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson is what I'm saying, because it would force them to kind of put themselves in a little bit of a vulnerable position down the line from a salary cap perspective.
He is Stephen Holder of ESPN, ESPN.com of the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I think I saw this courtesy of Albert Breer either earlier today or, hell, I can't remember when it was. But I think teams were allowed, 30 pre-draft visits? Is that
That's
true?
Correct.
And I saw where Albert Breer reported Quinn Ewers is one. And I guess not so much the level of interest because it's expected, but how much interest do they have in drafting a quarterback? How many others might they visit or have interest in outside of Ewers in this case?
See, I've actually thought that it's very possible that they will look at quarterbacks pretty seriously in this draft. I think it makes sense. I used this example some time ago, I think, in an article, and I don't know if it's the exact same situation, but just to throw it out there again. I probably said it on your show too. The Eagles set the precedent here. When they had Carson Wentz, and they maybe had questions about his health, and I don't know if they quite had questions about his performance yet at this point. But in 2019, what did they do? They went out and they drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round, and they said, let's just see what happens. Pretty savvy decision, right? Now, the odds of you finding a Jalen Hurts in the second round, extremely slim, okay, just to be clear. But they also realized that even if that guy just becomes your backup quarterback, if that was the worst if that was the best case scenario there, that's probably still a good use of a second round pick in the long term, right? So there's really not a downside to it. Second, third round, even if you get into the fourth, finding a gem in the fourth is hard. But let's just say anything outside of the first round, I think you look at it. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, Daniel Jones is on a 1-year deal. Anthony Richardson is basically on a 1-year deal, okay, in theory, right, if he doesn't perform. So what is their quarterback future right now? Right now, they have no idea. So I can make the argument for drafting a quarterback, or at least informing yourself and educating yourself on a guy so that if he's there, at a position where you think he's a good pick, you can make an educated decision. I think that is something I would totally support, just organizationally. But where they are, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, speaking of Richardson and his workout regimen, you got eyeballs on anything right now with him in mind?
I mean, he's doing what he's been doing, and the added difference this year is the Chris Hess addition to his team, doing that biomechanic work, which I think is really important, because I'm telling you, I really still firmly believe if Anthony Richardson can get his mechanics right, it's a game changer. I think that is perhaps the biggest thing holding him back. That and obviously missing games, which is a whole other topic, and we can't do anything about that. But if he's on the field and he can just be consistent with his mechanics, I'm telling you, I still believe the guy has a chance. But that's I don't want to minimize like the difficulty of going from a guy who's really inconsistent in his mechanics to a guy who's consistent. That's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world. So I don't want to downplay that. However, all I'm saying is I think it's one of his biggest impediments. And if you look at his worst throws, the throws that are the most inaccurate throws, consistently, his feet are terrible, his mechanics are messed up, and it all starts there. And I think you can go back to none other than even Andrew Luck, who after his injury, dealing with that surgery and the twists and turns for a year and a half to 2 years, and realizing, you know what, I can't throw it the way I used to. I got to get my throwing motion back. And he went and he found Tom House, and he helped him recapture his mechanics. And even at 27 or 28 years old, he at that point felt like he finally had mastered his mechanics and gotten to a point where he was consistently throwing with the same mechanics, and it made him a more accurate quarterback. He was more accurate in his final year, bittersweet as it may be, but Andrew Luck was more accurate in his final year than at any point in his career. And I don't think it's accidental. I think his mechanics had a lot to do with that. So there is a link there. I think you can apply that same logic here to Anthony Richardson, and we'll see what happens. But I think he's doing the right thing, and then we'll take it from there.
It's Stephen Holder of ESPN and ESPN.com. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I do want to double back to this, and then we'll close out the conversation here. I hope that we see and hear from Jim Irsay at the owners' meetings. I hope so.
I have made the case to the organization because, they listen to me. I've made the case that
they listen to me too. They just hear all the bad stuff. I think that's unfortunate. Yeah,
right. They listen to me. I don't know if they act on it, but they certainly listen. Look, I have made the case that, for whatever it's worth, that people want to hear from him, and I think it would be good for them to hear from him. I actually don't think it's an acrimonious thing at this point. I think he's made his decisions. They are what they are. But allowing him to explain them, I think, goes a long way, because he is as honest as they come. And I do believe there's some value in the fans hearing from him personally. It might actually do them some good, because he does have a way of being persuasive when he explains himself. I think for better or worse, and people will make fun of him and he's long-winded and all that. All those things are true. I get it, right? And he has his one-liners sometimes that get him in trouble. I get all that. But at his core, the man knows what he's talking about, and he does a good job, I think, generally, if you can weed through a lot of the other stuff, he does a good job of making his case and effectively making his point. So I don't see a downside to that, and I hope that he's able to do that. If not next week, then at some point in the near future.
Well, the believability is all going to be about winning and losing. We know that, but just seeing him and hearing him, just regardless, hopefully he would be his long-winded self. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people, I just think want to. I think it's important for people to see and hear that. Hopefully, that is the case.
He is. I think with Chris Ballard, when Chris Ballard talks right now, people are going to be skeptical. They're going to be naturally skeptical, right? Because it's like, oh, you're the guy who said one thing and then didn't do it, right? And that kind of thing. You're going to get those sort of retorts. I think you have a little less of that with Jamerse. He has, just being here a very long time. He's going to have a little more credibility just because he's not the guy whose neck is on the line, in terms of will he be fired or not and making these decisions and so forth. So I don't know. I think I agree with you. I think it would go a long way. So we will see.
Stephen Holder of ESPN, ESPN.com. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Have a fantastic week. Enjoy the basketball, Stephen.
I will. Will do.
Stephen Holder, Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I mentioned the basketball Thursday. You've got 4 games in all, the Sweet 16 underway. This is going to be the East region in Newark, New Jersey. The 6-seed BYU, the 2-seed Alabama, 7:09 on CBS, 7:39 from the Chase Center in San Francisco for the 4-seed Maryland and the 1-seed Florida. That's TBS and True TV. And then 2 others, 9:39, 4th-seeded Arizona, the 1-seed Duke from Newark, and Arkansas, Texas Tech, 10v3. CBS for the Cats and the Blue Devils, Arkansas and Texas Tech on TBS and True TV. Of course, coming up on Friday, Boilermakers, and more than just the Boilermakers, that's the nightcap at Lucas Oil Stadium, the only stadium that will have the Sweet 16 housed, and probably a good thing. You have Kentucky and Tennessee. That is in game number 1, 7:39, TBS and True TV. Boilers and Houston, the 4v1. 10:09 is what it says, probably more about 10:30 or so. And the play-by-play voice is Andrew Catalan. Andrew Catalan's going to join us coming up on the other side. Also had the Boilers in rounds 1 and 2 in Providence, Rhode Island this past week. And Andrew Catalan joins us next. Don't go anywhere. That and Steve Martin and Martin Short tickets we shall give away. The stream, the app, HD Radio, the AAA Membership Lounge. That's AAA.com to make sure you get and become a AAA member today. That is inside the AAA Membership Lounge. YouTube.com. You can find us right there. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I mentioned we have a big-time schedule coming up this week. Major League Baseball, it's our traditional opening day, Joe's Grill in Castleton. That is Brent Holverson, that is Romy, that's Nally. I think Lindsay and Gino will be there coming up on Thursday. Friday, Coach's Tavern downtown to get you set for the Boilermakers in the Sweet 16 against Houston. Of course, prior to that, Kentucky and Tennessee. I also should mention Matt Painter's going to join us on the show. I'm going to reach out to Dusty. I know Dusty's got some stuff down, obviously, in Atlanta with Michigan, but we'll see if we can't get both. I know we're going to get Matt. I talked to Matt yesterday, so Matt Painter this week, and we'll see if Dusty may. That will be like 3 consecutive weeks for Dusty, and I know Dusty's got a lot to do in preparation for Auburn, but we shall see coming up later on this week. But Matt Painter as well will get you set with the Boilermakers and the 1-seed Houston coming up on late Friday night. Meantime, on the call, that's CBS, TBS, True TV, all of it. It's a friend of this show who had the Boilermakers twice, first round, second round in Providence, Rhode Island this past week. Andrew Catalan joins us. Hello, Andrew. How are you?
How are we doing today?
Fan-stinking-tastic. I was trying to do the logistics in my head right here, which is tough because I'm not very bright in general, Andrew. You get in town when? And I was thinking, man, it'd be great if you can join us at a live event, but I just don't know logistically if that's going to work out for you. What do you think?
Yeah, tricky. This will be my 7th trip to Indianapolis since September. That's 2 Colts games. That's 2 Indiana games, which I count because I got to fly to Indianapolis. That's right. 2 Butler games. And now the Sweet 16, the Elite 8. And we have been trying to get me to come to see you in person. And I would say of the 7 trips, this is probably the worst possibility of it happening, unfortunately, because I've got to attend 4 practices and do the whole shebang, and there's not a lot of time for fun on these weeks, but they are fun. It's just the prep that goes into it. That's
So you're getting here on what, Thursday morning maybe or Wednesday?
Yeah, I'll probably get in. I got to be there by 10 o'clock Thursday because that's when the first practice is. I believe the practices are closed this round, so that's going to be a long day of practices Thursday, and then away we go on Friday night.
Kind of makes sense that this is, Andrew, the only stadium utilized in the Sweet 16, and they're going to need it considering what they have coming up from the SEC as well.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, as you know, Purdue is 65 miles away, and they've traveled. You know, I was with them in Detroit last year when they won the Elite 8 game to go to the Final Four, and they packed Detroit, so I can only imagine what they're going to do here in Indianapolis. And sure, with Kentucky and Tennessee, I mean, you know, in some ways, Houston has to be thinking, what did we do wrong here? We're going basically to enemy territory, potentially 2 road games, certainly 1. I would imagine the second one, if they win, is going to feel like that too.
Yeah, no doubt about that. It's interesting. Everybody else is going to be in those normal arenas, but, you know, you're considering the Kentucky fans. I mentioned this to Boilermaker fans, too. There's going to be a little bit of pressure to show out because Kentucky is going to bring everybody from the Commonwealth. Tennessee is going to bring a lot up, obviously, from their state. So, you know, between you get Purdue and their home state, you're going to have to show out a little bit of pressure there, I think, for the fan base on Friday.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I saw it last year. I think they delivered. And even in Providence this past week, there was a good number of Boilermaker fans. I actually stayed at the same hotel as the team, and the whole lobby the whole time was filled with Purdue fans. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, you're right. They're gonna have to get their tickets early because they're gonna be hard to come by.
Andrew Catalan's got him on CBS coming up on Friday too. Actually, both of those, Kentucky and Tennessee, and then the nightcap with Houston and Purdue at Lucas Oil Stadium. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I think you're actually on TBS and True TV. Is that correct though?
Yes, Friday is TBS, and then Sunday is CBS.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll make sure of that. Now, you saw the Boilermakers first and second round in Providence, Rhode Island. I'm curious your thoughts. I thought that you get a team in McNeese that wants to come out and kind of dictate the terms with aggressive play on both ends. I thought the Boilermakers came out and really suffocated them on both ends to start that game and kind of set their own tempo or tone against McNeese.
Yeah, talking to Matt Painter, he kind of said, late in the year when they struggled and they lost 6-9 going into the tournament, that they were getting good shots. They just weren't making the shots. And I think we saw in the first two games they're making shots now. And when they do that, they look like a really good team. So I think they're starting to get hot here at the right time. I really think that their bench was the underrated part of the whole time in Providence. Braden Smith did not have a very good game against McNeese. He had 8 turnovers. Kaufman-Wren was great, but I look at Miles Colvin, Cam Heide, Jakari Harris, and even Will Berg against High Point. Those 4 guys really provided a lot for Purdue. I think they helped stabilize that team, and if they can keep getting contributions from the bench, I mean, they're going to need them. Houston's the best or one of the best defensive teams in the country, so they're going to need everyone to contribute, and I think that's a good sign that they got those contributions in Providence.
Yeah, normally, and you're right, especially with Lawyer with the 15, because they need that offensive output certainly from him. I just can't imagine where you're going to get a 10.8 turnover effort for Braden Smith again, regardless of the circumstances.
I would agree. Yeah, I mean, you're just not used to seeing that. He's such a good player. And I think that, you get that one out of the way. But this is going to be tough now. I mean, Houston's no joke. I mean, they give up 58 points per game. They can suffocate you. So he'll have his hands full. But I tend to agree. I'd be very surprised if we circled back next week and we're talking about another Braden Smith poor performance, because he doesn't usually do that too often.
It is. Andrew Catalan's got the Boilermakers in Houston, TBS, True TV combination coming up for you on Friday. And again, the regional final coming up on Sunday at Lucas Oil Stadium. That's on CBS. Anything else stand out to you that you saw in the Boilermakers? And clearly we can talk a lot about Trey Kaufman-Wren, who on the floor is always important, really on the offensive end, certainly on both ends. The one thing that stands out to me about him, though, Andrew, is you got to stay out of foul trouble. You could say that about all their important pieces, but especially for him, because he can get those silly, pretty far away from the basket foul calls, and in that situation against that Houston team, that'll get you buried.
No doubt. And he did a good job of that in Providence. He stayed out of foul trouble, but we've seen what happens when he is in foul trouble. Remember the game that I did up in Bloomington, he was in foul trouble in that game when they lost to Indiana. So that's a huge key. He's fouled out of 3 games this year, but he's done a better job of late. And, he's such a deep thinker, smart guy. I think he kind of knows, how it's going to go in the tournament. But it's a big key. I mean, Will Berg did a really nice job coming in, but that's not a situation you want Will Berg playing, 15, 20 minutes. You need Kaufman-Wren out there as much as possible.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. You just can't have the silly fouls whatsoever. Anything else about this tournament, Sweet 16? I mean, obviously you get Kentucky and Tennessee on the other side as well. That should be fun as hell. What else piques your interest about your upcoming weekend here in Central Indiana?
Well, I think when I look at the first 2 rounds, I just see that, the Cinderellas aren't really there. I think that's just the state of college basketball these days. If you're a really good mid-major player, there's a good chance that someone at a higher conference is going to, pick you up. So, only 4 conferences in the Sweet 16, 7 SEC teams. Big Ten is alive with some teams. I mean, no Big East. It was a bit of a surprise. St. John's losing to Arkansas. So I'm kind of, it's so weird. You're so used to buzzer beaters and Cinderellas and double-digit seeds. We didn't really have any of that for the most part in the first 2 rounds. So what does that mean now? I mean, in theory, on paper, we should have an incredible Sweet 16 and Elite 8 because you've got the best of the best. So I'm very curious about that. And also, when you talk about the Kentucky-Tennessee game, Kentucky's beaten them twice this year. That old adage, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in one in 1 year. So I wonder how that, kind of plays into their familiarity. First time they've ever played in the tournament, which is amazing considering they've played 241 times. But I think anywhere you turn at this stage in the tournament, you should have good games now because those Cinderellas aren't there, and I kind of miss them. I love those stories. McNeese was fun when they beat Clemson, but now we'll see like the cream's going to rise because these are the best of the best that are left.
All right, so here's what you can do. And we'll have to have James pass along a number. So I do an all-request show, musically speaking, on Saturday night on B105.7 here locally. I'm live in studio. It's like the Wheels of Steel type of deal. Like they call and request, listeners do, and I play it back with their voices on the air. It's like really old school, awesome radio. So we're going to need you to call in and request a song. And it's probably going to be some kind of 80s thing. Can you do that? Are you equipped?
I can handle that. Yeah. Now, when do you have a day off then? I'm curious about
Sunday.
That.
Sunday's my day off. So I'll hoop a little bit and on Sundays normally. Yesterday we didn't. I hooped today instead, but normally I'll hoop a little bit and then hang out. So 6 days a week. Now you work more than that. You don't, right? 6 days a week?
No. I mean, depending upon the time of year, yes.
Yeah.
But not, coming up on a nice little sweet spot. So hopefully play some golf and request some 80s music.
Yeah, well, here's what's fun about it, too. It's like it's completely different than a talk radio show. It's music, and, nowadays everybody says, well, I can play what I want anytime I want with, all the options that I have, but this is different. Gets people to, like, talk it up on their own. They can kind of become the DJ. So it's really like old school, and people really dig it. So we've been doing it for about 5 years, every Saturday night for 6 hours, live in studio. So we'll reach out to you and have you request a song. I'm assuming it's going to be last week was the 1990s, so we did 90s stuff, and it's probably going to be the 80s this weekend.
All right, we can handle that.
Yeah, I think we'll have you do that. So instead of showing up, which sometime you will do, we'll have you get on. The Jim Irsay made a request. It was a 7.5-minute request. The longest request in the history of man was Jim Irsay with REM. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine.
Wow.
Yep. Have you ever seen the film Roadhouse?
Yes.
The original? Jimmy from Roadhouse, the actor, called in and requested a song on New Year's Eve a couple months ago.
I like that.
Yeah. So we've had Matt Painter. Matt Painter has requested Tricky Run DMC on the show in the past.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. So the groundwork is there. There's a big foundation here.
There is. So you've got to follow some big timers, just so you know.
Well, yeah, I'm certainly not in any of their categories.
We'll have fun with it, though, man. That's what you can do on Saturday during your prep time is you can listen and then be a part of it.
Love it.
All right,
Anytime.
man. All right, well, hopefully we'll see you soon, but we'll certainly get you on Saturday night too, Andrew. Appreciate it.
You got it. Take care.
Andrew Catalan right there of CBS. And, again, he's got both the Boilermakers and Houston nightcap on Friday, Lucas Oil Stadium, Tennessee, and Kentucky. That will lead TBS and True TV. The regional final on Sunday will be seen on CBS. Andrew Catalan on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Anthony Edwards, according to Chris Finch, the head coach of Minnesota, a game-time decision, 7 p.m. tonight. That is the tip time between the Timberwolves and the Pacers at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Benedict Mathurin, according to Rick Carlisle, is in tonight. So Mathurin good, Anthony Edwards a game-time decision, according to his head coach. We'll find out a little anything goes leading up to Pacer pregame coverage. 6:30, bottom of the 6 o'clock hour right here with Pat Boylan. Again, Timberwolves and Pacers, Gainbridge Fieldhouse, tip time 7 o'clock tonight. Martin Short, Steve Martin tickets will give away. You and me at 239-1070 on this other side. Some anything goes after 6 as well. Sit tight, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
And the words you just said.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, Steve Martin and Martin Short together. I've seen this before. It's awesome, and the venue is awesome as well, the Murrah Old National Center. Number 9 at 239-1070, October 25th. That is a Saturday. The Murrah Theater, Old National Center. Steve Martin and Martin Short. We are talking some of the greatest to ever entertain right there. I forget how long ago it was. It was a number of years. Same place at the Murrah Old National Center. Just a great venue to check this out. But Steve Martin and Martin Short, number 9 at 239-1070 will go on us. As of an hour ago, 600 plus into the transfer portal. Day number 1, the transfer portal is open. It is completely like the Sweet 16 is coming up. And I guess you can look at it this way. Does it really matter? Because all these dudes have already been contacted. So we know what's going on here. So I guess really there's no protection. There's nothing to keep anybody from it, right? But still, it just doesn't seem right. I'm telling you, I've said this before. Most of the people out there absolutely love the transfer portal and this NIL era. And here's why. Because you love free agency. Seriously, there is a section of sports fans out there that dig on free agency more than you enjoy the actual games being played. This plays a role. This is right in your wheelhouse. You get more out of free agency, whether we're talking hot stove and baseball, which has quieted down a great deal compared to what it used to be, or free agency in the summertime in the NBA, or free agency to start in early March as we did in the NFL. Most of the time you dig on free agency more than you do the long haul and the long term of a regular season. So I think for a lot of you, this is like, oh, well, this is where this dude is going. But what a massive, just adds to it, right? Pain in the ass. And you're in the Sweet 16. You got everybody in the world contacting. I mentioned this. Like Dusty May, Florida Atlantic 2 years ago goes to the Final Four. And I'd mentioned this story. I was talking to Dusty about it, and they're in New York City, Madison Square Garden for the Sweet 16. And I was trying to think who it was. It Kansas State and Tennessee? I think that's who it was back then in the regionals for Florida Atlantic when they advanced to the Final Four. But his kids were getting calls like in their hotel rooms then. And it's interesting to look back at that Florida Atlantic team because not only is their head coach someplace else, Dusty obviously in Ann Arbor with Michigan. Michigan's getting set for the Sweet 16 down in Atlanta versus the 1 seed Auburn. So he has Vlad Golden, the center, with him at Michigan. Elijah Martin is playing for 1 seed Florida in their backcourt. And John L. Davis, the guard, is playing for John Calipari in Arkansas. So 3 other dudes, and really 4 in all, because Nick Boyd was a part of San Diego State in the first 4, if you remember. Interesting. So 3 of the Florida Atlantic players are a part of the Sweet 16, just no longer in Florida Atlantic. As I mentioned, too, the Sweet 16 begins coming up on Thursday. I gave you a bit of the Friday schedule. Actually, I haven't, though. I'll give you the rest of the Friday schedule. I gave you 7:39 Kentucky and Tennessee, the 3-2 matchup at Lucas Oil Stadium. And that nightcap, the 4v1 Purdue and Houston. We talked to Andrew Catalon, who's on the call of that. Both of those games, TBS and True TV, with Andrew Catalon on the call. That podcast at 1075thefan.com. Now, the CBS game at 7:09 features Chris Beard and the 6 seed Ole Miss and the 2 seed Michigan State. I thought New Mexico looked pretty decent last night, did they not? And Ole Miss moving on as well. So that's at 7:09, 9:39. Both of those games are at State Farm Arena in Atlanta. The 5 seed and Michigan, the 1 seed, and Auburn. A couple of new coaches in place. Sean Miller being one from Xavier to Texas. Now, Colorado State loses the game last night in heartbreaking fashion, and then their coach today. I shall explain that. And that follows along the lines of Will Wade going from McNeese to NC State. We'll get you updated on that movement. And again, 600 plus deep already in the transfer portal. And one from IU that has been noted from Jeff Rabjohns of Peaks.com. Mbako is a part of the transfer portal as of right now. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Me and you, we've got some Anything Goes at 239-1070, so get ready for that. Anything Goes at 239-1070, and I may be doing better than you in both of our bracket challenges. The Diamond Madness with Moyer Fine Jewelers, number 22, James. And in ours, number 11 with The Ride with JMV and the Bar Restock with Heaven Hill Distillery. Number 11 there, number 22 in Diamond Madness. Quick break, we'll come back. Me and you for about 23 minutes with Anything Goes at 239-1070. That's next, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
words were, I'm on drugs.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
That sounds like anything goes fired up right here. I got about 23 minutes, so let's haul some ass. Get you to Pacer pregame. Anthony Edwards, a game-time decision for Chris Finch in Minnesota. Benedict Mather and N, according to Rick Carlisle. And according to me, you should be listening. I hurt my ass at the Hyper today. Seriously, my ass. Not just, hey, you know what? No, just seriously. That spot. I have a bruised rear right now. And James just saw me. I said, James, you know what? This is not gross or anything, but something hurts right here. I'm in pain. They call it a bruised tailbone, I think, or something. Going to be fighting that for the next couple of days. But I did enjoy it down there. I'm a big fan of the Hyper. I like playing Hyper hoops, no doubt about that. So shout out to Mike Ross and Josh and the gang for the invite down there a little bit earlier today. Maybe on Wednesday, as long as there's not this level of pain in my ass. That's the hope. The hope. Andrew Catalot a little bit earlier of CBS, TBS, True TV. He's got the regionals taking place at Lucas Oil Stadium coming up on Friday, and then the championship, the regional final on Sunday. Boilers in Houston, the nightcap. It is Kentucky and Tennessee to get things started. So on Friday, we're going to be at Coach's Downtown. That is going to be a lead up to what is going to be a massive weekend. Of course, those games that I mentioned at Lucas Oil Stadium will have Purdue conversation for you then. Yes, the Deftones at Gainbridge Fieldhouse that night. And yes, the high school basketball state championships coming up on that Saturday. By the way, discussion, Greg Rakestraw on the show coming up tomorrow. I mentioned Matt Painter's going to join us later on this week. We are going to be busy. So coaches on Friday. Now, we do this annually at Joe's Grill in Castleton with Heaven Hill Distillery. So it's me and Brent Halverson. It's Romy. It's Nally. And you can tell, I believe Carl is going to be. Are you surprised by that, James? Carl is the engineer on Thursday. I think Lindsay and Gina will be there. We're in Castleton, Joe's Grill, the opening of the Major League Baseball season. They have Cracker Jacks and Slim Jims for you. Now, obviously, the great food, Heaven Hill Distillery. It is our annual event as we welcome in the Major League Baseball season. I had significant finds in my closet, too, over the weekend. One is a 1988 Eric Davis T-shirt, which is awesome. The other is maybe the most awesome T-shirt for any Reds fan that you can remember. Now, honestly, to be better than that, I'd have to go all the way back to the 1970s. If you guys remember the Reds, and it may have been the rest of Major League Baseball, I just remember this with the Reds. They put out T-shirts where they had the picture of the player on the front and then his last name and the number on the back. So there was a picture of Pete Rose on the front, and then it said Rose and 14 on the back. And, the same with Joe Morgan. Now, the 5 of Johnny Bench. So that'd be the only thing better. But, however, the find in my closet, if you guys remember during the late 80s, early 90s era, this may have started in 1988 because I just remember this being synonymous with Kirk Gibson and the Dodgers and the historic Game 1 home run in the 88 World Series. But there were the cartoon T-shirts, and they had them for, obviously, the Dodgers then, the A's, Eckersley, Canseco. Trying to think who else. McGuire. I think Carney Lansford had one as well back then. But in 1990, they made them with the Reds. And I had the Nasty Boys. It is Rob Dibble, Norm Charlton, and Randall Kirk Myers. The Nasty Boys. And I found that in the closet. Got that bad boy washed. So we're going to break that back out like it's 1990 all over again. And the Eric Davis, I think, is going to be worn coming up on Thursday. The Major League Baseball season, no matter who you like, I mean, really, hope springs eternal, even if you are a long-suffering Reds fan. And we'll do that at Joe's Grill, Castleton. It's also a tavern tour stop coming up on Thursday. That is an event that you got to join us. But I don't know if I'm going to do the Nasty Boys either Wednesday or Thursday, or one of the two. Eric Davis, I'll judge. The Nasty Boys has seen better days. Weird, right? It's been around since 1990, but it has definitely seen better days. But found it, and we'll support that. Now, by the way, I'm trying to think. I believe I've had all the Nasty Boys on this show in the past. I was trying to think the wire-to-wire 90 Reds. I've had all the Nasty. Norm was on. I think Randall Kirk was on. Dibble's definitely been on. The late Tom Browning has been on. Rio, I don't think, was ever on. Sabo has been on. Larkin has been on. Ron Oster may not have been on. I don't think Joe Oliver was on. Benzinger's been on. Sean Casey was later. No, I'm sorry. Benzinger's been on. Hal Morris has been on. O'Neill has been on. Who else am I thinking? Who am I missing? Eric Davis obviously has been on in the past. Billy Hatcher has been on this show before. Glenn Bragg's been on this show before. I think we have almost everybody but maybe Joe Oliver covered, at least in the Everyday Nine, if you want to factor in the late, great Tom Browning as a part of that, too. Maybe Ron Oster. Ron Oster may have been on before. I know Joe Oliver has not. But wire-to-wire Reds in 1990. Makes you feel good because it's been long suffering for us Reds fans out there. Opening day coming up on Thursday, and the annual event we do at Joe's Grill in Castleton. So join us. It will be a blast with Heaven Hill Distillery. All right. So anything goes. I owe you. 239-1070 is the number. We'll start out with Gator on line one. Hello, Gator. How are you?
Hi, John. This is Gator.
Yes, sir.
Just a random fact here. I was watching a documentary about Ted Bundy, the American serial killer.
Yes.
And Chris Hagen was an alias that was used by Ted Bundy. Just a random fact.
I believe I was aware of that. I also think that Ted Bundy, did he not defend himself in court?
He did.
And he was rocking a sport coat with a Seattle Mariners T-shirt on underneath it. Was he not? That was Ted Bundy, correct?
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was at one time he was a law student, but he never really finished school. There was a documentary, it was on Netflix or something, and they mentioned, I think, that Chris Hagen.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a connection there. It was an alias of his, and yeah.
Chris Hagen as an alias for Ted Bundy. It all makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Gator. That's good. Ted Bundy knowledge right there from Gator. Chris Hagen. I've seen that before. You got the sport coat on and the Seattle Mariners T-shirt. I believe because he was a one-time owner of not just the Seattle Mariners, but a one-time owner of us. Jeff Smullian has been on the show before, and we talked about that very thing. See, that's what Anything Goes is all about right there. It can be about the serial killers, an alias, music, film, television, sports, food, beverage, smoke, whatever. It's Anything Goes at 239-1070. Here's our good friend. He is Fulton, the incredible ukulele player who joins us now. Hello, Fulton.
Hello, John. How are you?
Are you feeling better, buddy?
I'm a little better.
All right. Well, I know you had a very tough weekend.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So basketball is done for the season?
Yep, basketball is done for the season. We got track season coming right now.
Oh, so what are your track events, Fulton?
Well, this time I'm not doing the 100-meter dash this time. I'm
Okay.
doing the 200-meter dash, the jump shot, and then the relay.
Now, do you ever rest, or are you just active all the time?
I basically rest and get energetic.
Yeah, you're very energetic. There's no question about that. You are, and I admire it. You're relentless. There's no doubt, buddy. You are after everything. So just, continue to go after everything that you want in this too. So track season is underway. What else are we doing? We practicing the ukulele? Because, listen, we all find it really incredible. We got to go see you coming up in July at Everwise Amphitheater, up on stage with Earth, Wind, and Fire. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Actually, did you know they were going to rename it, I think, Earth, Wind, Fire, and Fulton?
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
No, I'm just making that up, so that's not true. But no, they should,
But I am doing this musical, Seussical. We are doing the production of Seussical, the musical. It's from Dr. Seuss.
Okay.
So we are, we've been doing the steps for the dancing. So when you come to Hampton Heights High School, it's on May 15th through the 16th.
Oh, Hamilton Heights High School with Fulton in the Dr. Seuss musical is what you're saying. So you got, are you doing like green eggs and ham on the ukulele or something like that?
Yep, we're trying to do that.
I knew it. So what are the dates again so people can go watch it?
It is on May 15th through the 16th.
Yeah.
And it's at the Hampton Heights High School. And I believe it's like, I forget. It's like something like that.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you'll keep us updated because you do. That's what you do.
Yep. It's on, not sure what time it's going to be on. So we'll keep you
can
updated.
follow you up. Well, you will, buddy. All right. Well, I appreciate you calling, Fulton. Have a great night.
Yep. Oh, and I forgot, John.
Yeah.
I just got an email from the Colts.
An email from the Colts.
They said they received my papers and they will get back in touch with me soon.
All right. I'm going to leave that up to the Gorman. Did you call the Gorman and tell him how happy you are about being picked to the Hall of Fame fan guy?
Not yet. I need to.
Well, I'm going to give you his cell phone number and you can call him personally.
Yeah. Don't forget, I need a copy for that Earth, Wind, and Fire.
My brother, hey, congratulations on that, too. Stay in touch.
I will, John.
That is Fulton, right? Fulton is always busy. Relentlessly busy he is. I'm telling you, if he's really up on stage with the ukulele with Earth, Wind, and Fire, you know how incredible that is? For those of you that don't know, Fulton plays the ukulele. And Fulton called in here once upon a time and played the classic song September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. We taped it, and then Eddie Garrison, who on that day was in for James, put it together, and we call it our Earth, Wind, and Fire Fulton remix, and we played it on the JMV Takeover. And Fulton tells us that Earth, Wind, and Fire heard about it, and they want him up on stage at Everwise in July with his ukulele. True story. It's Fulton at 239-1070, and Mike is on Anything Goes right now. Mike, welcome to the show. How are you?
Man, I'm doing all right. I just wanted to give a real quick shout out to the Carmel High School show choir, the Ambassadors.
The Ambassadors, yes.
Yeah, they actually went down to the national competition at the Ryman Auditorium. That's where the Grand Ole Opry's at. And I'll tell you what, those kids were so amazing. They came back with a national freaking championship.
Let me tell you, that is, and some may not know this, but that is such a big deal. It's incredible, Mike.
I know. And like some friends of mine have a daughter that sings for them, and they posted it out there, and I hadn't heard anybody talking about it. So
well, good for them.
Those kids, lots of hard work goes into that. And
yes, it does. Yeah, it is amazing because I've seen these. The Center Grove puts on similar shows to that level. And what goes into it is the extravagance of all these shows and the hard work and the timing. It's incredible. It really is.
Absolutely. And I think you can even catch their performance on YouTube. So get out there and make them viral, and hopefully they can make some money off that too.
Well, and congratulations to those up in Carmel right there. That's pretty awesome.
That's all I had. I'll let you go.
You got it, Mike. Thank you very much. I've seen what they do at Center Grove. I think they're called like the Debtones or something. I don't know, but it's wild. It really is. What all goes into it, how many are in it. It is some high-level stuff, to say the least, right there. So congratulations to Carmel. I would figure I'd never heard of it before, but I'd figure it was a big damn deal up there, for say the least. Because I know how big it is since my daughter goes to Center Grove, how big it is down there. My man Steve showing up at Joe's coming up on Thursday. I'm telling you, it should be a who's who both Thursday and Friday. There's no better time this week. Now, hopefully we get a little bit of weather cooperation going, but this week is going to be absolutely outstanding. With the start of Major League Baseball, hey, Eddie, what do you got the Reds going this year? A little postseason love?
I think they make it, John. I think they make it.
Are you cautiously optimistic?
I mean, if they can be over 500 just because of adding Terry Francona, then they've got a chance.
Is Spencer Steer injured?
Yeah, he's on the injury list to start the year with a shoulder injury. I'm not really sure how long he'll be on the injury list, though. By the way, I didn't get to do this during our show earlier. Shout out to my dad. Happy birthday, Dad.
Happy birthday to your dad.
Yeah.
Does he like living behind me?
I'll have to ask. Last I heard was yes. That he has no issues yet.
I'm thinking about tearing down that chain link fence I have in my backyard. What do you think?
I mean, you're the only one with a fence in that area, so
I am.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because I got some rabbits that live underneath the outbuilding, and I feel bad for them because we've got some wild animals around there.
You got some snakes, right?
I got a big snake back there.
Oh, yeah.
He hangs out. I like when he comes out. He keeps the rodents away.
Oh, that's a good point.
He is, and I've got a picture somewhere, like a 10-foot black snake back there.
I've seen your picture. You put it on your Twitter.
Yeah. There's one time a year ago, I was mowing in the backyard, and he just popped out of this hole and just like watched me the entire time. I go, hey, don't worry about it. I got your back here. I don't want the rodents anywhere near my house. So he goes to get him right there. So happy birthday to your dad. Can we say how old your dad is?
I got to do the math. Hold on.
Sweet. That must be pretty old if you got to do some math on this. 50. He's 56?
Yeah.
69. So huh?
69.
Oh, 69. Gotcha. Well, happy birthday to your dad.
Thanks.
Now, they live, actually, if you didn't know this, Eddie Garrison, the producer of Query and Company, and the talent along with Jake on Query and Company, and the producer of Pacer Basketball that's forthcoming right here. His parents live right behind me. And we're literally in Morgan County. It's, some people suggest it's Johnson County, but literally in Morgan County, right on the Johnson-Morgan line. So I think it's one of those situations, if we lived on the other side, for example, if I lived where Jeff Watson and Glenda Watson live right across the road from me, then you couldn't put a hog or a turkey barn up as easily as you'd want because there would be some rules. Where I live, I could, do that when I got home tonight. Because it's Morgan County as opposed to Johnson County. It's kind of like if the hall out here, James, if that were the county line, we're in Morgan County here because we do whatever we want. Like they're regimented over there time-wise, and they couldn't do anything like this. But here we can do this, over there you can't. So they're like Johnson County over there. I'm like Morgan County. We just do whatever the hell we want.
We have fun over here.
Have fun over here and do whatever we want. But pretty interesting to say the least. So happy birthday to Eddie Garrison's father. Hey, by the way, too, he's going to be producing the Pacer game. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. And last check, Anthony Edwards is a game-time decision, according to Chris Finch, their head coach. Thank you, Cable P. I recently found this in my closet. Oh, this is so good. That is the Bashers. And it's one of those cartoon, I think you'd call them caricatures. I just can't pronounce it very well because I'm a hillbilly. T-shirts. It has Jose Canseco, Dave Parker. Who is that? Is that Don Baylor on there too? And Mark McGuire? No, I'm sorry. I take that back. That's not Don Baylor. That is Dave Henderson. So Jose Canseco, Dave Parker, Dave Henderson, and Mark McGuire on this shirt. That's exactly what I was talking about. I have Cable P with the Nasty Boys. And we'll be rocking that. Absolutely outstanding. Thank you very much. On Thursday and Friday, on the road Thursday, the opener Major League Baseball season, Joe's Grill. We're going to be in Castleton with Heaven Hill Distillery Friday before Purdue plays. You got to stop in at Coach's Tavern. We're downtown, and we will be having a blast. I promise you that. I mentioned game time decision, Anthony Edwards tonight. That tip time is at 7 o'clock. And Rick Carlisle had mentioned that Benedict Mathurin is in for this evening. And if you remember a week ago, it was wild. Pacers had a lot of dudes out. It was the one of, if not one of the more memorable efforts we have seen out of a Pacer team in years. Pacers are winning games, but at times you just kind of wonder what's happening. Hopefully they can become more consistent, but the whole winning thing is all that really matters. Maintain that 4-hole in the Eastern Conference playoff picture. Pat Boylan is going to set the stage for you coming up on the other side. Pacer pregame. Eddie is back in here for that. James, thank you very much. If you missed the show today, Eric Fromm, the former Butler Bulldog, he joined us. Stephen Holder, ESPN, and Andrew Catalan of CBS and TBS and True TV. Podcast 1075thefan.com. Matt Painter later on this week. Pacers and Timberwolves, the pregame show coming up on the other side. Have a great night. Enjoy the game. Back with you tomorrow at 3. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.